listening to the LARP Lounge live on Sundays at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time at twitch.tv/Aerostar. That's twitch.tv/ARRUSTAR.
Hello everybody and welcome to Season 1, Episode 8 of the LARP Lounge. Today we are here with the Tavern Keep. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I play Zharn Engelroth. My name's Chris. I did Tavern Keep all this season, and did some other things we're going to talk about today.
And his lovely assistant,
Amy. I ran the tavern the year before with my sister Sal, because together we are Sal and Amy.
It did work, Nevitz. I finally got the sound effects on this computer, so all those sound effects that you guys have been trying to do will actually work for once. I remembered. I did my diligence as host, and I actually remembered.
Good job.
So now they can play.
You remembered this week?
Huh?
The only thing you remembered this week.
I know I forgot to bring my boom arm in case, but I don't think it would have attached to yours, so. Anyway.
No. That's up.
So. I think the shield's in a good place, actually. I was going to move it, but I think it's perfect.
Now it's in a great place. Yes.
You just kind of sit up a little bit so that the crown is on your head.
Nice.
There you go. Yes.
Yes.
I'm now
So-
seeing a falcon crest. Dangerous position.
We will,
You don't live right on there.
Yeah, no, you don't.
we will start with the question that I ask everybody. What does LARP mean to you?
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one. It was introduced to me by my daughter and my wife into Mythic, and it was a process of just, hey, you're gonna do this. So it was a quick one. I said, you know what? I remember thinking about this a long time ago. I'm like, let's give it a try. About 3 hours in, I was hooked. On the first weekend or so, I didn't start off with going to any of the the short day events, the half day events or the Wednesday events. Like my daughter and my wife, I started off on a weekender, and about 3.5 hours in, I was like, "Yeah, I'm hooked. This is where I'm gonna go hang out for a long time." And it was
Addiction sets in quickly.
So it was really enjoyable because it was a place where a lot of my skill sets. In gaming and as well as just life work, so it was a good match for me.
Sorry, that was the tavern troll. We have trolls that wander into the tavern on occasion.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Alright, so, the tavern, I guess you want to go ahead and describe the tavern a little bit to everybody?
Ooh, the tavern in Mythic is like the focal point of the town. Everyone has their structures, the place where they're camping, but the tavern is where like the town coalesces and congregates and begins and ends most of the adventures. It is like the town hall, the meeting place, the area where every nefarious deed is ever arranged. It's
Unless
it's
it's
all
in the dark.
unless it's in the dark corners behind certain other buildings that we won't name. I've been trying to make it a fun place this season, but the tavern has been an evolving structure, an evolving place for Mythic, and I'm hoping that we can like talk about that beginning part of it, because Amy had a joy of dealing with the old version of the tavern before we morphed it into the new version.
Yeah.
So we have a few comments here. We have Knit Lad said, "Is that a pirate I see?" Which is funny because when he got here today, he said he looks very...
Yeah, my shirt's clean. I typically this is what I call Zharn light. So I got my little barbarian thing on. I typically wear different shirts, but I have a clean shirt on, and I'm always dressed a little bit lighter for working in the kitchen. because wearing armor and cooking does not work. You could try all you want. It's hard to.
Very piratey today.
Yeah, I do look. I just realized how piratey I look because I normally
it's
have
the Johnny Depp.
Yes, my Johnny Depp eyes.
Yeah, he did ask if you were wearing makeup, which you definitely
Yeah,
are.
I am. We had a really cool party last night. So.
And he's not used to having to wash makeup off in the morning.
I completely forgot.
I thought it was intentional. I really did. I thought it was just to add to the Zharn look.
I didn't say anything about it because I was like, I think it looks good.
I know. She loves guyliner. No, when I looked at myself, I'm going, yeah, I'm a little piratey today. Typically, I have all the Crotheus. He has that long bandana. My colors are white, silver, and blue. Crows have been purple and silver and brown. And so my armor is black. Zharn, I built Zharn around a very specific look. This is Zharn light because this is Zharn working in the kitchen. So that way I can do it. Zharn heavy has come in a couple of times, but not on a weekender. So.
Yeah, I think I've seen Zharn fight once.
Just once.
I think so. You're always in the. So where we're all in Utah.
Lemore says he low-key looking like a snack.
Thank you.
And can I get some haircut tutorials on how to achieve that crazy hot hairline? I don't know which one he's referring to. Maybe me, but my sister did this, so I don't know. She does hair, and she does mine for free, so I just show up and say, "Have fun." So she does whatever. She cut it really short this time, like super short, because she thinks it grows super fast, and it doesn't. This was back in August, and this is all I've gotten grown back. So like, she thought it would be. Oh, I hugged Lemore. Oh, you are welcome.
That's funny.
So what's going on? So I understand that right now the tavern is kind of in the air as to what happened with the last weekender. Have they told you yet what happened specifically? Because supposedly it was destroyed, but now they're like, it wasn't approved. So do you know?
So the kitchen had a ward around it that
always
was
does.
Specifically for that weekender because they knew that things were going to be destroyed. So basically the kitchen still exists and it's it wasn't destroyed, but the rest of the tavern will probably have to be rebuilt.
As far as I am aware, the tavern and a couple other places were quote unquote destroyed. Hopefully it's not retconned because I really like how it happened. But we might suffer a retcon on this at some point.
Well, it seems natural. I mean, the way it happened, it wasn't like an assault on the town, but let's see.
Oh, okay. Now I'm curious. Okay.
Says Nitlad asked, why is the pirate not drinking rum?
The best part is, I have to stop drinking. I'm on medication, so it won't let me drink anymore. I do drink, I was drinking copious amounts of whiskey and rum when I would do this.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
all day long.
Yeah, I tended to drink a little too much, and yes, I would. There's the whole pirate group, and you would see Zharn drinking with the pirate group quite a bit. But Zharn, for the next year or so, is probably not going to be drinking. So, no more drunk Zharn at Anders.
Yep.
I don't think I have a command to give people hugs at Nitlad. I might, but I don't know what it is. But drinking and gambling, yep. There's lots of gambling that happens in the tavern and in the Pirates Hall, but a lot of it happens in the tavern too. I've noticed.
We have the dice games usually go to the Pirate Hall.
Yeah.
The tavern gambling is usually cards or some variation of cards. So there's a lot of just card games. I've initiated a few card games with players.
Yeah. Like small scale card games will go on in the tavern, but if you want a large scale card game, you go to the Pirates Hall.
Yeah, you go to the Black
Widow.
The Black Widow, because those guys have spent a lot of time setting it up and really making it a fun place. The gambling hall, the Black Widow, typically, I'm going to start saying you want to be 18 or over. The tavern is all ages. So
Yeah.
This is LARP.
Yeah, so we are doing. So Lemore says, I don't want to be disrespectful or anything, but why is everyone dressed like a character from Game of Thrones?
I love it.
So basically, this is a talk show where we discuss LARP, which is live action role play, which is a hobby of ours that we do. So you dress up and you run around hitting people with padded foam weapons, and you eat your friends.
I don't. No. That's Lita.
Lita has that problem.
That was still in my description. So it's gonna go in the description from now on. So let's see. Zanny says, and cough unique plays. Let's see. Boji says,
plays. Yeah. Oh my God.
I'm terrible at cards, and as a result, Boji's terrible at gambling.
Cool. I know who to gamble against next time.
Let's see. Sam says, same here. Let's see. You are my fire, the one desire. Believe when I say I want it that way. He's singing NSYNC at us, apparently. Where's that Backstreet Boys? I don't even know.
I don't know.
See, but we are.
It's the
World's
bandana.
heart can't reach your heart. You say I want it that way.
I want it that way.
Also, thank you for the follow, Knit Lad. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Hi, neighbor.
Hi, neighbor.
Neighbors.
Good stuff.
So, is it Backstreet? See, and she puts the 3 ellipses because she's embarrassed that she knows that. Like,
Oh my gosh. All right.
okay.
Answer.
So where were we with the tavern?
We're tavern. The fun things that the players do.
Right.
When I first started with Mythic, the tavern is where I went
Yeah.
because I had no idea where to go.
It's where
and-
people congregate, so it's a good place to just hang out until you figure out what's going on.
In most LARPs, there's usually a hall or a town center. In Mythic, that town center is the tavern. I hung out there because I had no idea how to play the game and the rules, and I just flat out saw a character there who was all dressed up like an elf, and he was tall, he had his armor girdle on, he had these shoulder pads on, he had this bow, and I went up to him and went, hi, my name is Zharn, really awkwardly. I have no idea what I'm doing, and he said, nice to meet you, Zharn, my name's Kane, let me help you.
Yeah.
And that's all it took, and he is now I consider one of my good friends. In real life, Kane, don't know where he sits in the game.
You don't know where his relationship is with you in game.
Yeah. I love Kane. I've always been able to count on him as Zharn. But just going out and just talking to people, and I did that in the tavern.
Yeah. Yeah, the tavern is definitely where you meet and greet and sit and eat.
Yep.
Lots of eating.
And that's where a lot of the plot comes in, is in the tavern.
Yep.
So a lot of people will come in there, and sometimes during meal times, sometimes not, just to kind of give us the new, what is our next journey, what's our next adventure. So
Yeah, and emissaries and quest givers and royalty and whoever, you'll find them at the tavern. Dragons.
Yeah. or people who think they're dragons.
yeah, Zanny says a lot of role play during meal times.
Yes.
Which that's what there's a lot of opportunity for that, and that's, if you don't want to role play, stay in your structure. If you do want to role play, go to the tavern, because that's where it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or even if you, like we were talking about, even if you just want to play card games, not even necessarily gambling card games, because I brought that one game that one time with the totem with it's called Jungle Fever or Jungle Speed, one of the two, I can't remember, but that was a lot of fun too, and I wouldn't have been able to play that at my tavern or at my own structure, so it was fun. And of course, the kids had to turn it into gambling.
Of course, because
they want to be pirates, apparently.
especially my son.
Yeah.
Mortimer wants to gamble.
He likes to gamble all of his money away.
Yep.
It's okay. It's LARP. That's what we do.
Yep, just have fun.
Yep.
Do things you couldn't do in the real world, which he definitely could not do that in the real world.
Yep,
So.
for sure.
Yeah, I only cook at LARP. I don't cook in the real world.
Whatever. Yeah, no, that's one of the big benefits of LARPing, especially with younger children. or like young teenagers or whatever, is that it's a safe environment for them to explore things that may not be safe to do in real life, so that they can figure out consequences and whatnot. Like if my son goes and gambles and loses all of his LARP money, that's a good lesson learned so that he doesn't do that in real life with his real money.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, he's been bamboozled. I've been bamboozled a couple times. I actually knew I was being bamboozled, but my character wouldn't have. So there is play your character first type of mentality that I've learned. This character is a much quieter version of the real Chris. So not as smart though. Of course, I'm not that smart to begin with, so it's not a high bar to miss.
Whatever. So
what made you guys want to take over the tavern? Because that's a huge undertaking. Like, why?
Right,
it starts here.
That.
It starts here.
Yeah, like why?
And it kind of ends over here.
Yeah, but like, what?
Okay, so
what possessed you?
I have a lot of experience feeding large groups of people. I come from a large family. We always have large get-togethers. Feeding a lot of people.
We both come from large families.
Yeah, feeding a lot of people is something that's like not hard. And when we first started playing Mythic, we could tell that the people that were running the tavern weren't used to feeding large groups of people.
They did an okay job. They did a great job, actually.
And it just there were things. I'm very much a let's figure out how to optimize the situation, right? Like instead of, hey, just as an example, one of the things that I do for prep for the weekend or for food is that I crack all of the eggs and I put them in Ziploc bags beforehand, because cracking eggs while you're trying to cook for that many people takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Because one egg at a time or two eggs at a time, even, it just takes a really long time.
Unless you like crunchy eggs.
So it's not that, it's just little things like that where I like to optimize the functionality, the ease, and I really felt like I could step in and help with that. And I'm also really big into nutrition, and a lot of the people that we LARP with don't cook at home on a regular basis, and so the meals that they do know how to cook aren't necessarily like what your body needs to help recover after an intense physical experience as LARPing is for a whole weekend. And so I know how to cook nutritious meals that will appeal to lots of people. I know how to do like slight variations to accommodate for the vegetarian and the paleo, and not have it be a huge deal, but it's always a huge deal to those couple of people who are like, well, I don't eat grain. And I'm like, oh, well, I have an almond flour option for you. And for me, that was a really big deal in trying to streamline the whole process, because it was so much work. It was overwhelming for a lot of people, and they were going through people really quickly and burning people out really fast on running the tavern. And so I wanted to try and help resolve that a little bit. And so that's why we stepped in.
It was started off with the old tavern setup, which was a very manual kitchen. It was very nice. I mean, like, for a camping group of any size of people, they had equipment, they had burners, they had water, about 100 gallons of water capability, or plus, 100 gallons plus. The coolers we've upgraded coolers because we needed a bigger size. So now we had great coolers. Now we have really awesome coolers, because now we can feed everyone in 2 coolers.
Well, and one of the other things with the coolers was the coolers that they had were fairly old, and so they didn't hold ice very well. And so we were spending an extra, $20 to $30 a weekend on ice. Where now we buy ice once on Thursday night. I buy ice.
In the middle of summer, we bought ice Thursday night, sat in our hot garage all day Friday, loaded up, drove in a hot trailer all day Friday.
It lasted through till
and
Sunday.
We still had ice. I was still emptying ice out on Sunday night. So at my yard. So that those new coolers have been helping us keep a lot of good things around for a lot longer, and also limit down how many things we're bringing. And that was the first goal, because when Candace was running the tavern as Sal and Amy last season, not this, the season before this,
2018.
Yeah, 2018.
The 2018 season. I spent a lot of time looking at their setup and their footprint, and their layout, and looking at what was out there, what was being used consistently. Because much like Candace says, it's optimization. I work in defense. I'm also getting my engineering degree. I've been an aircraft mechanic, and I've also done heavy machine maintenance. I've managed maintenance for drilling companies. So I look at a system in terms of a worker's relationship to the systems that they're dealing with in a process called order of first retrievability. So your most common things that you're using as a tool to your trade or what you're doing need to be accessible and reachable and attainable to you with the least amount of effort. Because that way you will always know where they are, and you will always feel comfortable about what you're doing. And watching, you think about that in the kitchen, what is that?
The stoves.
One.
The sink.
The sink. The ability to wash.
Cooking utensils.
Yep. And how many cooking utensils do you really need? You only need about 3. So there was a level of retrievability. We had excess stuff because people, I need this tool for that, this tool for that. We went through and streamlined the tooling that we have out. We could still do some more. And yeah, you do need a steak knife, or you do need a large carving knife when you have those instances, but it doesn't need to be the first thing always.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the beginning of the first genesis of us going, hey, there's a better way, and we can do it for a relatively good price. So
Zanny says it's fun to let your character get screwed over sometimes, back to when you were talking about getting bamboozled.
yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was hilarious fun, because I also had to spend time figuring out, and I'm still planning my revenge.
And Nevitz says, I have enjoyed the tavern experience a lot more since you guys took over. Thank you.
You're very welcome. We work very, very hard to make that experience good.
Yeah, when Sal and Amy were running the place, they started off like, we're going to do it this way. We're going to make sure it's a fun place to be. Mm-hmm. And when I volunteered to take it this season, I role-played with that. Because Sal and Amy, Zharn knows Sal and Amy. So Zharn agreed to run it the way Sal and Amy ran it, which was make sure that people are welcome, and there's considerations. And Zharn, you notice Zharn's a stickler about rules about inside the tavern. He got uppity last couple weekenders about it. So there's trying to make that tavern a place where the entire game can exist, where everyone in the game can come in and be welcomed, was our goal. And I hope we've met that goal, and hopefully it continues.
Well, I can say that as far as me and Nevitz are concerned, you have. Because just to give you an idea, for a while we were so dissatisfied that we were doing our own food.
Yeah.
And
we've actually heard that from several people.
We don't do that anymore. So
Good.
that should
Makes
tell
me
you
happy.
that should tell you something about your work. So
That makes me happy.
yeah. So I mean, it was a lot of work, but that's how dissatisfied we were there for a little while, because it's like you said, they kind of just, some of it just wasn't feeling, or it wasn't like you said, it wasn't recovering, it wasn't the protein or whatever that we needed, and we necessarily weren't thinking about it like that, but we were always like, man, we're always hungry after the tavern. I don't say that anymore. In fact, there are times I don't even get seconds anymore, because the first plate was that filling. Like, that's rare for me. People can That people can attest to that. I usually always get
Okay.
second. So
Good.
I've seen him eat pizza, so.
That's been a very conscious decision on like food choices, because we've now settled on a standard dining routine. If you haven't noticed, we have a Friday night stew, some form of soup. We did pho. I don't know if we'll do pho again.
I don't know, a lot of people.
A lot of people liked it, but it wasn't that filling, and
yeah.
it was. I am a huge fan of just street pho and just pho in general, because I am a man of the instant.
I never turn down bacon seconds. Yeah, we know that.
That's we do a stew on Friday. We do an all-American breakfast. We call it the all-American, which is just eggs, bacon, breakfast meats, some small soft bread, like some soft breads, fruits and vegetables, lots of proteins, lots of good sugars, not like, and obviously coffee.
Always
coffee for
Actually,
me.
we're probably going to get a second
percolator
for next season because we need one percolating while one's being used.
Yeah, so we're gonna do 2 percolators of coffee this coming up season.
Darn.
I
mean, for a while there, we were charging people for our coffee because the tavern didn't have coffee.
I'm hoping to have get 2 going, so because coffee is becoming more popular.
Oh, yeah.
People really like it when I make coffee. I tend to, if I stay up late, I tend to have someone. I ask someone to make coffee in the morning for me because I want to sleep. I'm thinking about instituting new rules for next season. For that reason, so the whoever's running mills can actually have a chance to take a break on when kitchen will shut down completely. Where was I going? My train just left the station. I'm still on the dock, so
yeah.
sorry.
It's fine.
Mills. Going into meal choices, we do heavy proteins and sugars in the morning, carb lunch. Not carb heavy, we just have some carbs for lunch on Saturday because everyone's running. Your engines are now on full tilt. Everyone's engines going.
It can be a really big slog between lunch and dinner sometimes.
So we tend to do we've done a spaghetti lunch. We've done some heavier carbs for the lunches.
The sandwich bar.
Yeah, the sandwich bar has always been popular. And we let people eat those carbs, get a little bit of proteins and sugars back into them, get the carbohydrates because everyone's metabolism's now in full gear, and then you could just chew on that energy. And by the time dinner comes around, I mean, there's been a couple times I fed everyone at 2. It's 7 and no one's hungry yet.
Yeah.
It's 7, and normally
no,
it's
we'll have dinner at 9.
9:30, 10. And I've pushed dinner back, and I've had dinner pushed back to almost 11. On a couple weekends because everyone was so well, their nutrients were so well met. People weren't really getting hungry, and I started dinner as late as 10:30.
I know sometimes, in the summer, it was also the heat.
Yeah, no,
when you get hot, you just don't want to eat. And I know that was one of the times where we ate really late because everybody was just like, I don't even think about food because I'm just so hot.
Yeah.
So, Ever says I appreciate the coffee in the past. If the Tavern Keep didn't like coffee, they never made it. And that's, like I said, yeah, we were bringing our own coffee there for a while. We had a percolator and everything. We had our own fashion, and people were like, "You have coffee?" And we became the center of town for just a little bit.
I taught Sal how to make coffee because she's not a coffee drinker, but she knows that, coffee is very important to a lot of us in the morning. So we taught her how to make coffee because she usually went to bed before the rest of us did.
She was up.
So she was the one up to make it.
Because Sal actually comes from a different time zone to come play with us.
She comes
from quite a...
Well, I guess Missouri.
Whoa.
Yeah,
my sister lives in Missouri, so she'll come out here usually once or twice during the summer. Yeah. And then
all of her summer schedule this summer did not line up with us, so we didn't get a chance to play with Sal. I was hoping to get a chance. I'm hoping next season we get some we get some more Sal and Amy. Well, she'll be playing.
She
Will.
almost came out for the August weekender, but ended up canceling her plans.
Yeah, that was sad. I was hoping for that.
See,
one.
I don't drink coffee, but I understand its importance to many people. Like, if I ever run the tavern, I'd be like, no, I'm going to have coffee or they're going to lynch me. Like,
Yeah, coffee brings everyone, and coffee's a great equalizer at Mythic because we have players who will not get close to each other until there's coffee, and all of a sudden they're standing next to each other waiting for me to pour it. And they've now made connections. They've become coffee buddies.
mm-hmm.
And so there's something very important in the human condition about breaking bread with someone. That you just once you eat with them, once you share a meal with someone, it's really difficult to keep a grudge, hold a grudge, and form a grudge. So the more we eat with
Food
each
is
other,
important.
yeah, the more we eat with each other, the more times we have meals with each other, the more cohesive of a group we become, and the more fun we have. So that's an important thing that I see and that I would love to keep going.
Coffee and bacon are very important to a good atmosphere.
Keep people happy.
At least Boji will be happy at that point in time.
But most people.
And that counts for a lot, no.
That's funny.
Keeping Boji happy. So you kind of started getting into how you have optimized the tavern. Let's see, I believe that for real life, for sure, adventurers are complicated.
That's
the
true.
whole food, breaking bread with someone. Yeah,
Yeah.
adventurers sometimes can still hold a grudge even if they're eating with people. So,
Yeah.
But so you started talking about how you've optimized the tavern. So I feel like we should talk about the lovely little trailer that you guys made in order to optimize the tavern.
Well, that begins with Sal and Amy, because I watched it going, and Candace comes to me. We've done big building projects before in the past, custom building projects. We've done custom. What custom things have we've done? A couple teardrop trailers.
We did the food trailer.
No, besides the food trailer.
The food trailer for our neighbor.
We did a full commissary trailer. That was done on a very tight budget, and we lost money on that one. That was painful.
It was alright.
Yeah, it was. Well, they didn't want. They thought they could get a cat skinned for nothing.
We didn't charge them near as much as we should.
We should have. Yeah, and they got a really good deal. We should have charged almost double or triple.
Yeah, so we've got experience in metalwork and fabrication and all of that stuff. So
I've done a lot of custom tool and die building in the drilling fields and construction. So and I'm also working on my mechanical engineering degree. Candace is a designer and a problem solver and a thinker, and she solves problems in a visual space very well.
So one of the big issues is setup and takedown. Setup and takedown always takes forever, or at least it used to. It's become much, much, much faster now because we added the second trailer in. So Mythic for a long time has operated with this big haul trailer that they have all of their NPC gear and all of their tavern equipment in. And what they would do is they would pull the trailer in, they'd stop where the tavern would get set up, and they'd unload everything for the tavern, and then they'd pull it down to NPC camp, and then unload everything for NPC camp. And then we would take the time to set up NPC camp, and then set up the tavern. And then with takedown, it's okay, take down NPC camp and take down the tavern, but we've got to load up NPC camp and then drive up to where the tavern is, unload everything from NPC camp, load everything for the tavern, and then reload everything from NPC camp. And it's just such a logistical nightmare and took so much time, effort, and energy that I'm like, why are we doing things 3 times?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's figure out how to do this once and do it right. So that's where the idea of the tavern trailer came in. Is we're like, all right, for one, having to load and unload everything constantly is backbreaking. We wanted to be able to have a sink because we just had 50-gallon drums of water that we hand pumped to get water, and we boil it on the stove to heat it up to be able to wash dishes. A lot of tavern keeps in the past have resorted to just paper plates and cups and plastic forks and spoons.
Trash.
So much trash is generated that way. It's bad for the environment, and we never had enough people to be able to take trash back down out of the canyon.
And we got critter attacks all the time because paper plates get chewed on by critters. Anyway.
Yeah, it was a mess. So I said, okay, no more paper. We're not doing that anymore. And I got rid of all of it. Everything except for napkins. And I think some people were really like, don't do that. But I did. And I went and I bought more utensils so that we could actually have enough utensils and everything to operate without the plastics. And so we really wanted a sink with hot water, and that we wouldn't have to roll the barrels out, because we'd bring a dolly to be able to get the barrels out of the trailer.
Take 4 people.
Take 4 people, manhandle these 50-gallon drums of water.
To give you guys an idea, a gallon of water weighs 7.3 pounds per gallon. So when you're talking about 100 gallons of water, you're talking 700 pounds of plus sitting there. So that when you're moving one of those things, it's 350 pounds of low center of gravity water. You know, they're not light. It's not very easy to move, and it's very heavy.
So we really wanted to have onboard water with a water pump and a water heater, so that because dishes is another big thing that, like, nobody likes to do dishes.
No one does.
Right? Nobody likes to do dishes. We often ask for volunteers. We usually get volunteers to come help us with dishes, because the cooking of the food is a huge undertaking, and you're usually pretty exhausted by the end of a meal. And so to feel like you've got to stand there now and do dishes for the next hour or whatever can be daunting. But having people come and help is nice. But a lot of people want to come help because you got to boil the water, and you got to do this and you got to do that. Like, it's this huge process, and so we wanted to streamline the whole process.
We got it down to a switch now.
Yeah. So now it's just flip on the switch and water comes out, and it's
water
so
comes
nice.
out, and in about 15 seconds, it's almost unbearably hot to touch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it was a big design process, trying to think, okay, like, how many coolers do we need? What size are they? What size are our stoves? Is everything going to geometrically fit? Like, we were calculating, cubic feet space, and
we were measuring the volume. We actually went to the trailer many times, the old system, and we were measuring how everything was packed. And when someone says, I did it perfectly, we actually went down and measured it and took those volumes, that volume space, and we went back to what resources we had and designed around that volume space in order to even fit it. And we ended up with a little bit of room. We had to change some things midstream,
but
which I'm glad we did, actually. Some of the changes that we were forced to do actually helped a lot, and some of them really hindered you. So that whole design process of, like, that on the fly changing, because I went through and designed it to where I would know how much deflection the roof was going to get under load, and because we had to change something on the fly, that deflection changed.
Yeah.
So we now have to solve a problem.
Yeah, we just got to put in a support beam.
Yeah, and then so there's all the planning in the world that you can do for that. But it was we looked at the footprint of the kitchen and go, how can we mimic this and make it one thing that we can do?
So the other thing that that was a big bonus for us with the kitchen trailer is that lengthwise, it's split down the middle lengthwise. So on the passenger side of the trailer is where the kitchen is. All of the cooking supplies, that's where the food is kept, the stoves, all of the sink, all of that is all on the passenger side of the trailer.
And the speaker.
And the driver's side of the trailer.
Can you pull up those pictures?
All of the tables and chairs and the canopy and everything for the tavern itself. So it's just storage, and it's completely empty basically when it's in use.
When it's in use, I call that the larder side. This is what you're seeing right there is the kitchen side of the trailer, and this was to help eliminate redundant equipment that we were being forced to use in order to store everything. You can see we do have a kitchen sink. It's mounted to that door right there.
Yeah, I've never seen it flat like that, so that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
how
it stores.
That's how it is in travel position.
Nice.
So it is hinged, and it stores like that.
Nice.
We have some external bracing. We have to brace that sink a lot because water weighs a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of bracing involved in keeping that sink from being torn off the doors. You can see there's a cabinet, and that's where we keep all of our hard utensils and plates.
Which that was a huge deal for me.
Yes.
Because before having a cabinet to keep like the plates and the cups and all that stuff in, we had just a big giant tote, and it would get dirty and messy, and every time you pulled dishes out, even if you had washed them, you had to wash them again before you could serve on them because they would get dusty and dirty.
Yeah.
So being able to have a cabinet that's easily accessible and closable and, keeps the dust out is so nice.
Yeah.
And stuff doesn't just fall over into a big mess.
It still it does, but it does in a different way.
You stack it right.
Or if the campground we go to doesn't have
Oh my gosh.
those bumps that
The
are
bumps.
just
The road going into the
off-road
campground right now
with
is
that
like,
trailer, and then that trailer's bouncing in the back and it's dragging, and it's like everything's
That
gonna
road
be
is terrible.
Hopefully that changes. It does stay put, and usually when I open the door, I forget about it, open it up, and it stays put as it falls out, leaning tower of Pisa on me.
Yeah.
You want that same picture again? Or
Yeah.
next one?
We'll have that picture again. If you remember, Mythic had 3 burners, 3 stoves.
Mm-hmm.
We've eliminated one of them because it didn't work and it was being used as a countertop. So
We didn't need it.
Yeah.
And why bring stuff with you that you don't need?
Yep.
Most of the time we don't even need 2 stoves. We only need one.
The one.
So
we have a primary stove and a backup stove, and so those 2 are in there. We have the coolers. You see the little totes holding everything.
So that little turquoise tote is what we put like our breads and stuff in to keep them from getting squished.
And I think you can see my chair folded flat underneath.
Your chair's on the floor. So there's those plastic drawers that hold all of our utensils and everything, cooking utensils and knives and what?
Gordon Ramsay says you should never sit in the kitchen.
You know what? He's not in my kitchen, so Gordon Ramsay can do whatever he wants in his, but he's not in mine.
So up at the top, where you see that's netting, that's a
that is a cargo net.
yeah, it's a cargo net for like a trunk
for
of a
trunk.
car.
Yeah. So we actually mounted it to the structure up there and put all of our little loose things up there, and that has been one of the best things. We got to go through and organize it because people bring stuff to donate. Hey, I have extra packets. I have extra of this, extra of this. Now it's completely full of stuff. I need to get rid of it. But people love it, and they can see what we have, and they're like, no, it's in that package right there. There's the napkins. There's the spare stuff over there.
Yeah.
If you look to the other side of the opposite side of that netting, you'll see a big silver thing mounted to the back wall by the kitchen sink. That is an on-demand liquid petroleum gas water heater. That water heater is probably one of my favorite things in existence right now.
So, real quick, Zanny, a little while ago, said that the tavern had never been more organized. It is so wonderful. I almost never see the tavern set up when I get to a weekend. I think she means she never sees you setting it up because it's already set up. And I have to admit, it has been nice. Like, when we're setting up our tavern, we don't have people coming over anymore. Like, or not our tavern, but setting up our structure. Right. We don't have people coming over. Hey, help us with the tavern. It's like, we're busy, man. Can you not see? Like you guys get it done, like, post haste, and it's amazing. You guys have plenty of hands too, though. But
we have plenty of hands. But also, I've learned that, like, hey, if we do this correctly, I only need the town's help for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
not for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because like I want to set up my stuff too, and I don't want to be bothered. So I go, hey, you know what? If I could just bother the Smash Brothers for like 5 minutes, they'll be happier.
Yeah.
And I get my stuff done. And you know what? I'm going to be happier because when I'm done with that, I'll walk over to my tent and set it up by myself, because it's kind of nice setting up the tent by yourself. You go, I'm getting into character. This is my home. Blah blah blah.
It does. It does help you
That's
get
very
in.
cathartic, and I totally appreciate that. So I try to get it to where I personally try to get it to where like I only want 5 to 10 minutes of the town's help.
Yeah. She says you guys are rock stars. And then Boji says, Boji, strength 15, I lift the water. And then he says, Gordon Ramsay would die bad-mouthing a troll.
I totally would, especially in the tavern.
And we have fairies in the tavern.
Yeah, there's fairies in the tavern. That's fine. So yeah, the whole kitchen trailer, tavern trailer has been. It was a huge effort, but it's been so worth it. And we're not planning on being the ones actually running the tavern next season. We both
I want to play.
Yeah, we both kind of just want to play.
Yeah.
But I'm probably still going to maintain tavern director, and
Whoa.
I will organize who is running the tavern when, or who is doing which meals, because we don't feel like one person should have to sacrifice their entire summer for the tavern. We feel like it's much more enjoyable to split it up into either, hey, you just take this weekender, or hey, you just take this meal.
Mm.
And we're with going to that, we're toying with the idea of I'm toying with the idea of actually being the main assistant. The main assistant for Candace on this one. So in game, Zharn will actually help get people going, because Candace, Raven, and some other players will actually come help us prep the entire food. I can't. I try to. I do as much as I can because I work in school full time.
Yeah, Ari comes sometimes.
Yeah,
Braden
Ari.
comes sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And Steinberg's helped once.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so prepping for the weekender
That's the key. Prepping.
is huge too.
That prep that Candace puts in makes it so my effort, especially this season, my effort in the tavern is I grab the bags that I know their ingredients, and I just literally cook by numbers. And that prep makes it so I can function. And we're actually now, we originally started, we were having sittings for placements for like 25 people. We're now pushing 45.
Mm-hmm.
We've
Yeah,
almost doubled the amount of placements we've had in 2 seasons per mill.
Yeah.
So we actually designed the trailer for 30 people, 35 people. We're now 10 people beyond that on average every time. I even calculated the water use for 35 people for a weekend, and now we're outstripping that, which is fine. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
We've grown. I was expecting a 30% growth. We almost doubled.
Yeah.
In 2 seasons, in terms of how much the tavern's being used, which is just awesome. It just means we literally hit the design life of this thing about 2 years, 3 to 4 years faster than I thought we would.
But it doesn't make it like obsolete or insufficient. It's just, okay, so you can't just let the water run without the plug in the sink.
Yeah.
You know, like
we have to be a lot more water.
You just have to be more conscious. You can't treat the water like you do at home.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because that trailer has a 105 gallon storage, 96 usable tanks on it.
Yeah.
So we're just slightly shy of what we were doing before, but 100 gallons is good for almost 40 people if you don't wash dishes. But we wash dishes and we do other things, like people want hot cocoa, people want coffee.
Yeah. We bring up 3 of those igloo water coolers, and we always bring up several flats of water. We're leaning away from bringing out the flats of water just because, again, that's a lot more trash.
And
I think
waste.
that people can be a little bit more responsible for their own hydration and bring reusable water bottles, and or bring their own flat of water or whatever.
Yeah, because it's an expense that adds to Mythic's costs.
I mean, the expense of water bottles itself isn't that big. I mean, like a flat of 40 water bottles at Costco is $2.50. It's not that it's expensive, it's the amount of waste that it generates.
Well, yeah,
and the amount of effort, and it's
yeah, because something for me, because I've a couple weekenders in a row I've worked and tried, and I'm doing cleanup, and I'm picking up everyone's water bottles. That wears thin very fast. So I'm not a huge fan of people going, I'm thirsty. Here's a water bottle. They crack it open, take 2 swigs, and leave an empty water bottle, and they leave it open, and there's dust and bugs in it because they left it out all night because they didn't care. Because it was convenient for them. They needed their thirst. I agree with them. Get your thirst done. But you get busy. You can't clean up after yourself because we're playing a game.
It's just our little push to let people, be a little bit more responsible.
I just think we need markers. And just write your name on it, and then you guys know who to come after. Because I remember there was one time on the weekend where I was drinking a bottle, and then I put the cap on, and then they're like, "We're being attacked!" And then I came back, and my bottle was gone, and I was like, "I wasn't done," and now I feel bad because he cleaned up, what he thought was a mess, and he didn't have to clean it up, but like
there's that part that comes into play.
Yeah,
so we can if that's why we're like going like we need to build a culture of like trying to get people to have water on them to help eliminate that. Also, there's that conversation of like interrupting players during food and meal has been going on.
Yeah.
And like, but it's too much fun. Like I've pushed for like, please don't interrupt them, or don't interrupt them with combat. Interrupt them with other things. And
we talked about that a little bit at one of the open houses. So I remember that how there's conversation is happening.
Yeah. Now the pushback is like, but we want to interrupt them, and like I kind of it's fine. Just don't do it when it's dusty because everyone hates dust in their food.
Oh yeah, and where we usually camp is dusty is the problem.
It was the last two were really nice.
That's because it was wet.
It was wet. Oh, that was so nice when it was like nice and hard packed. Yeah. So much nicer.
Yeah.
Do you want to show the other 2 pictures?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So that's the same side.
So this is mostly packed.
Yeah, you can see the coolers are in it now, and that entire right side is completely full of stuff.
Yeah, it gets stacked side to side, top to bottom in there with food and everything that we use. I didn't take. Yeah, that's my dog.
I know, but because of how she's sitting and because there's all those like cables she looks like a string puppet.
You can see the length of that trailer. It is a
10 foot.
It is 10 foot. The opening is 10 foot. Each door is roughly 5 feet. So that completely spanned open is 20 feet long.
Yeah.
And the kitchen exists inside of 2 10x10s.
Yep. So we set up 2 10x10 canopies just right in front of that. And that's where we pull out the stoves and the tables and stuff to do all the food cooking and prepping and whatnot. So yeah, it's pretty good.
It's
just another view.
Yeah,
that brown box there underneath the cabinets, that's where all of our electrical
That is the main
are.
electrical panel, that's the main house power, AC, and it has a DC inverter on it. To the left of that, which it's really difficult to see, there is actually a small DC power bus where we have
all the switches
for the DC LED lights, which are really nice. I hope everyone likes those. The trailer comes lit.
Yeah.
It has the water heater on it. It also has a water pump on it. Underneath the cabinet and behind that brown box, there is the water tanks. There's 2 45-gallon plus tanks over the axle. The sign that you see there is actually hiding the axle. So there's a lot of stuff hidden from view on this trailer. So that you can't see. All you see is half of it. You only see the kitchen side. The other half is filled to the brim with our tables, our chairs, all the 10x10s, the entire 20 by 40 canopy for the tavern proper. It sits on the other side, plus the generator, plus the electrical, plus other water containers, plus the flat irons for the stoves, which I'm thinking about getting rid of all but one. So there is a lot going on in that trailer system.
The coolest part is nobody asked them to make that or do that. They just did it because they wanted to be efficient. Like, and it's. I mean, I know it's awesome for them, but it's been kind of awesome for us. So.
Yeah, it's been good, and we're excited to be able to train other people on how to use it too. So, I mean, it's not terribly complicated to use, but just you have to have the generator on before the water pump will work. Stuff like that.
We're hoping in the next season, before the next season, we can put battery power, so we don't have to run the generator constantly.
Yeah.
That has been an issue, but battery power just is an expense. That is a different monster. There's some improvements we have to do to the system, but that's the completed system. Building the system, that was where a lot of the fun came in.
Yeah.
That was a fun. I actually, there was injury, there was a lot of late nights, and a lot of yelling and shouting between me and Candace because when we work on these types of custom projects, we love working together.
Well, it's a lot of push and pull.
Oh yeah.
It's like, no, I thought we were going to do it this way, and say, no, why would we do it that way when we can do it this way? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, and then we go back and forth about the pros and cons of each choice and trying to figure out what works best. I mean, how many times did we relay it out before we actually built it? Like we had the floor all welded up, and we're like, all right, where's the center wall going?
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, this is this wide and this is this wide, and we want to turn it this way so that it's easily accessible. But if we turn it this way, then it's not, it's too deep, and then it's
too shallow. It's too this. It's too that. And we had to find through measuring tapes and chalk lines.
Yeah.
Where the best compromise was, because both of our ideas were great if the trailer was a foot wider or a foot longer.
Yeah.
And not even that much. And but we just ran across the physical conditions. Like, it can't be any wider because it would be wider than the vehicles. We have We also had a size limitation on the axle, so we had all these these restrictions that kept our design space very tight. So when it came down to the end of it, we were going like, how do we best solve this? And for a lot of people, our ability to go back and forth is very intense.
And it makes people uncomfortable sometimes to watch us work together, because we can get very what other people would perceive as heated with each other.
you fit right in with me and my dad and my family.
I think I learned it from you.
Yeah, you probably yeah, most likely. So.
But so it's good though, because it makes for an enjoyable experience all around. So we had a lot of fun making the trailer as well. So not only is it enjoyable for us to use it and have it now that it's made, it was a lot of work to make it, but it was an awesome experience to be able to do it.
Well, especially doing the grinding, setting up the hinges, because building the doors, we did a lot of custom fabrication. None of this stuff was off. Very few things were off the shelf.
Yeah.
We had to go out and find the hinges that were strong enough. We had to go out and buy the metal, source the metal, cut the metal, weld the metal, lay out the metal, straight. There was nothing we bought off the shelf. That was oh look, this sub-assembly is done. The water heater.
The exception to that was the cabinet. I was nope, I'm buying this. I don't care how much it is.
Well, yeah, well,
I don't want to have to build a cabinet.
Yeah, exactly. The cabinet was a garage cobalt thing from Lowe's that was on sale. And I totally agree with that one, because it was metal and we could bolt it straight in and go, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
All the other aspects of that trailer, it is handmade and custom set up for that trailer. Yeah. And we cut, welded, and grind everything.
It was about 200 hours of work for 200 hours together. Mm-hmm. So not 100 hours for him and 100 hours for me. Both of us putting in about 200 hours of
Yeah.
work on that trailer.
Yeah, it was a lot of nights. Paint, we had to hand paint the frame because powder coating was not an option. We were originally going to powder coat it.
Yeah,
We got the price tag on that one. Went nope, not going to happen.
we're out of
So
can.
we
We're out
had
of
to
can.
remove the rust, a lot of the rust by hand. We had to go get different types of paints, and we rattle can painted that thing in our garage and our driveway. Our neighbors thought we were nuts.
Oh, they still think we're nuts, but that's fine.
Yeah, but now we have one of the most custom trailers that they've ever seen. It's a box, but as soon as that thing opens up, everyone goes,
What?
"This is awesome. This is nice." We literally have a catering business in our garage. We're not giving it back to you guys. It's ours now.
No, I do not want to do
No,
catering.
neither do I. You guys can run the catering show.
So,
We've also done repairs to the tavern proper.
yeah, we had to. So
The last season.
the last weekender, 2018, we had such bad wind. It actually picked up our tavern canopy, the big 20 by 40 canopy, and blew it into a tree and bent, 5-6 poles?
It kinked a whole bunch of poles, bent a whole bunch of stuff, and we lost. Pieces were damaged. Pieces were completely damaged.
Yeah.
So we ended up having to. So we found a place where we could order replacement poles, but we still had to add, they had a little tab that with a little hook hole for a support rod.
Yeah.
So for
And we had
all of
to-
us, for all of
add
us
all
mythic
that
people
stuff.
watching, the uprights, the top of the canopy for the tavern. If you look up there, you'll notice that some of them are discolored. I had to take the broken tubes, cut off the tabs, without changing the dimensions of it. Remove the old weld, find center of the new tube, clean the paint off, and I had to hand hold it and weld it
Oh wow.
at the same time, and that steel is very thin, and I was using a commercial welder that wasn't working right.
It was,
So
it's pretty crazy.
it was a process that that Candace got to watch, that really intense fabrication of working inside.
I mean, I didn't only watch. I cut all the poles
We
down
had
to length.
we had to
and
cut
you
all the
welded
poles. We had to
pieces.
weld it. Candace got some welding time. I burned out a whole nerve in my left hand.
Yeah, that was not fun.
David says, "Wow, that's crazy."
It was a lot of work, and but now we have tavern pieces of work. It's also we couldn't find a tube. You remember on the
The
bottom,
right size.
the bottom section of our tavern, we have that one tube that's kinked over. We couldn't find the right size, so we got to
We just smooshed one.
camp, and we're like, oh, this doesn't work. I pulled out a sledge and modified it at site, and we're still using it.
Wow.
So
See, I wasn't aware that you guys had done whole new metal and everything. I thought you just unkinked them and were calling it good. Because
Yeah,
I was
no, we
like,
bought
that's a
new
weak
tubes.
spot that's gonna.
Yeah, no.
no, those pieces we had to cut a lot of them apart just to get access to it, because unkinking it was an impossibility.
Yeah, I mean, and there was a whole conversation about is it worth fixing, or do we just buy a new one? And I was looking at the prices of new ones, and I was like, no, for like $200, if that, I think it was more like $150. We can get new poles and make them work, versus the like $5,000.
Yeah, those things aren't cheap. I know
for
that.
a
So
new canopy.
And if we can get another season out of this current canopy,
I
we
think
should
we
have
definitely
we should
can.
get one more season out of it, and then we can go get a new one and get a nice bigger one that would fit. Or
yeah, it needs to be bigger.
yeah,
We've outgrown.
Yeah, we've outgrown. We added more people to our Mythic family, and more people are coming.
Yeah.
We have more placements happening at the tavern. I would like to keep that growth up. I don't think it's going to double again.
Yeah, no, I don't think
We had a lot of room for doubling very quickly, but
so. Yeah.
should we talk about the skin, installing the skin? Because the skin, we had to find that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like all that skin that you see, the white stuff that you see on the trailer.
Yeah.
That is sheet metal. That is aluminum that you see on the side of semis.
Yeah.
So we had to go source that, get it, and I'll tell you one thing. That stuff comes in 4 by 12 foot lengths.
So it's 4 feet wide and
I
12
want
feet
y'all to
long.
go out and measure your car. Your car ain't 12 feet long.
And we don't have a truck.
We don't have a truck right now, so it was.
We have an Armada, and what we do is we lay down
all the
seats flat. So we basically have like the interior of a truck, right? And then we like rolled it.
We had the
Thankfully,
guys
it's
that
thin
were
enough.
selling us the metal. We bought metal from this company a lot. It's
Yeah.
Affiliated Steels in Salt Lake.
Affiliated metals.
And they're walking it in, and I grab it, we curl it over, and let the whole thing fall there. They're laughing like drains.
Yeah.
Because they've never seen anyone put 12 feet of metal in a 10-foot, or like in an 8-foot spot.
8-foot spot. Yeah.
So.
Never says I work for a metal company.
We might have to hit you up.
Yeah.
I forgot you. Yeah, I forgot you landed that new position.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
you guys were gonna go hit October. Is
That's
there
right.
half off? Isn't it half
Yeah.
off the remnants or something? But
Yes.
Half off remnants on the budget of non-existence.
yeah,
I need armor though.
I know, so do I. We have also, we have other
Let's-
hobbies too that another
So
discussion.
I want to talk a little bit about the prep side of things.
Oh, please.
So food prep for feeding that many people
50, up to 50.
can be a lot of behind the scenes work. Because I don't want to have to put in the work while we're trying to play, right? So while we're trying to LARP, I don't want to have to be sitting there cutting potatoes, when I could be out hitting a monster with a boffer. Like I just don't want to do that at LARP. So we do all of that prep beforehand. So I come up with the meal list, what we're having on what days, for which meal. And then I take each meal individually and I break it down into, what ingredients I need for those meals. And then I go to the Costco on 2100 South because it's the biggest Costco in the country.
Yes.
They have everything. And they have a lot of things cheaper at that Costco than you'll find at the other Costcos, which is another big reason I go there. Because, their sliced cheeses there, cheaper than you'll find at other Costcos.
Yep.
A lot of stuff because they carry different brands at that Costco. And they carry the same brands as they do at other Costcos, but they carry more brands.
Yeah. And they also have
at
a
the one on
commercial,
21st.
because that's the commercial center for
Yeah.
the state of
Business
Utah.
center.
It's a business center. So they have a lot of restaurant size. They have number 10 cans of certain foods. So we'll go out there and we'll take that Mythic budget and stretch it to feed 50 people.
Yeah, so we charge, it's $20 for the weekend for food. So that gets you 5 meals. It gets you dinner Friday night, gives you breakfast, lunch, and dinner on Saturday, and breakfast on Sunday. A lot of times I'll even do PB&Js Sunday.
yeah, you guys have been good about that.
Because sometimes we're not out of there until 2 or 3, and people are getting hungry again. And I'm like, we just make a bunch of PB&Js, I stick them back in the bag, and just walk around and hand people PB&Js. But so I look through the list of who's signed up, and this is one of the big reasons why it's so important to sign up, is because that's what I base my budget on. Is I will go and I'll say, okay, this many people are signed up for food, and I say, okay, so there's 35 people signed up for food. 35 times $20 is my budget.
Yeah.
And that's what I base my budget on. Because when I first started as a tavern director, I asked them, I said, so what's my budget? And they were like, I don't know, like around, $300 to $400, depending on how many people there are. And I'm like, oh,
Around is
okay,
not
so
exact.
what's my budget?
Yeah.
So that I just took it into my own hands and said, okay, so if we're charging people $20 for food, I'm going to use that $20 for food. I don't feel like the money that's charged for food is something that should be going into Mythic's profit coffers at all, and so I have no qualms with using that calculation. Oftentimes, I will say, okay, I have 35 people signed up for food, but then 40 or 45 people end up eating. But I am really big on making sure, I would much rather have leftovers than people go hungry.
Yeah.
And And so I always overplan food anyways. And so it's not a huge deal for people who haven't signed up to come eat, but it helps a lot.
It helps a lot. I've only missed one placement this entire season, and
that's because you didn't find the rest of the eggs that were in the bottom of the cooler.
Half of it was my fault. I admit almost all of it was my fault on this one. There was also a timing issue because I shut down by that time that person got free. But I've only missed one placement this entire season, and I felt I was gutted over it.
You were pretty upset about it.
I was very upset about that. Someone paid and missed a meal, and I tried to make amends for it, and they're like, "No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine." I was like, "No, yeah." So signing up early helps a ton. Also, I told Mythic that I'm not turning people away. If they're hungry, I'm feeding them.
Yeah.
So also signing up and paying for that food makes it so a new person or someone who's struggling to have a good weekend, you're helping them have a great weekend. And you're supporting them in a very soft and powerful way.
Food is important.
Yeah, by all of us getting together and paying that $20. And for the food, we leave room for someone who can barely make it, who can barely afford to come, and $20 is a stretch for them, and they can come break bread with you, and it might be your next best friend of your entire life.
We'll never turn anybody away for food. If you don't got the money, I don't care, come eat. That's kind of our philosophy. So I go shopping Thursday morning, and I get everything I need. And I go home, and what I've been doing lately is I've been assigning specific tasks to my daughter Raven. I say, okay, I need all of these vegetables cut in this way, and she will cut them, and we double bag everything because I don't like cross-contamination, and in coolers that's a really big possibility.
Or just get cooler
and
water
so
into your food.
We double Ziploc bag everything so that cross-contamination doesn't happen. And I'll work because I still have to work Thursday. So I'll tell her what to do, and I work from home. And then when she finishes whatever I've assigned her, I'll go back in and reevaluate where we're at and say, okay, now I need you to cook this meat this way, and now I need you to, mix this marinade for the chicken and put this many, chicken breasts in each bag so that it can marinate, for the weekend or whatever. And so I pre-prep as much as I absolutely possibly can. Anything that needs to be cut gets cut beforehand. Anything that needs to be peeled gets peeled beforehand. Anything that can be cooked beforehand, I will cook beforehand. And so that saves a lot of time, effort, and energy at the weekender itself. And we spend all day Thursday. So the first several times that I did it, I did all the prep by myself, and I spent from the time I got back from Costco, probably about noon, until 2 or 3 in the morning, doing all the food prep, making sure that everything was ready. Because for me, I want to be able to prep the food in a comfortable place, at my house with my sink, and all that.
Sharp knives.
Yeah. And then be able to relax a little bit more on the weekend.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, and it makes a difference because with that prep done, Candace now I take over when we go to load, and when we're at the site and we're playing, I take over. And the only conversation I have with Candace is like, hey, I have a question about this meal. I have a question about this. And Candace is still the director. I still
do these onions go with just breakfast, or do we need them for dinner too? Whatever.
Yes. And I defer to all of her judgment calls on that because that is her position. So she is in control of what I do inside the kitchen. Zharn, I do the role play, and I will stand at the stoves and cooks. We have a lot of people who help. The Steinbergs actually come over and help. Debbie Steinberg.
Debbie's amazing.
Debbie used to play Mythic years ago, and now she wants to come back, but she doesn't want to play the way she used to. She would rather just hang out in the kitchen and hang out in the tavern. So for her, me and Candace running the tavern has actually brought back some older players, and they want to come back and join the community again. So, and I love being able to be the catalyst of that type of thing. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Nevitt says, my only problem with weekend or mealtime is when Plot wants to run things while food is being served. Seriously, take 1 hour break and let me eat.
yeah, well, that was one thing we've been going on, and that's a conversation that's been happening, and it's one of my biggest pushbacks against Plot. I personally, when I get there, I go up and go, who's running this weekend, who's in charge? I get their names, and I go, what time are you doing things? And I try to pin them down to a time. And I'm very flexible. Like, what time are you doing this? Like, well, what time do you need? I'm like, you tell me what you're doing, and I will make my food work. And then they go, oh, can we aim for 9? I'm like, I'm going to hold you to that because 8:30, when these things turn on, it's happening at 9. So you tell me 9, it's on. You have to keep me up to date. Otherwise, people are going to have cold food, and I'm going to tell them, it's your fault.
I don't like serving cold food.
Yeah.
And I'm really pretty good at judging how long it's going to take start to finish from cooking, because everything's already prepped. And like, okay, like corn takes this long to cook, the meat's going to take this long to cook, like these two things we're going to cook together, and when this is almost done, we're going to start cooking this thing so that everything can be done and ready and hot all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I hate eating cold food. So I don't want to serve cold food.
I know you do. I know you like eating cold food. Oh, man, I'm thoroughly confused. I'll make sure your food's warm next time.
See, and I'd say, like, I kind of agree with Nevitz, but I know that their whole thing is that they want the unpredictability.
Yeah, they want unpredictability, but that unpredictability can be planned. Because I know what, like, as Chris, I know what Plot's doing.
Yeah.
I asked for it. Like, tell me what's going on. Tell me what I need to play. Tell me how I can help you. And they give me the feed in. I'm like, I'll role play it correctly. And so they've given me the hints, and I've helped them initiate and help things and push Plot through. And I've helped people get corralled. Zhan's birthday singing, if you remember that, up at the other...
he wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't there for that one. I'm sorry. Someone came up to me and said, oh, it's Zhan's birthday. And so we got Zhan convinced to go change a light bulb for us because she's able to reach. I'm short. We got her standing on a chair, and we sung happy birthday to her. I've made it a point that if I find out if it's your birthday, you're going to have a birthday being sung to you inside the tavern, which I've done about a dozen times this year.
You didn't get mine.
Well, you've hidden it from me, so
yes,
now it's going to happen.
It was close. It was like 2 days away from my birthday at one of the weekenders. But
if people let it slip, you're going to get a happy birthday and a jolly good fellow sung at you. Because it's fun, and we all like watching someone else turn red with embarrassment, because we all like to give you that encouragement of going, hey, we like you, and we like to embarrass you because we would be embarrassed too.
Yeah. It says, I hate having to leave my plate of food in the tavern because some creature walked in town and is killing people.
That is, my pushback is changing on that one. I have been.
We're talking. So he says, are we teaching LARPing or explaining the food breaks? So we're specifically talking about the tavern and how the tavern is run at a Mythic Weekender. That's kind of
and for most other LARPs that I've seen and read about and seen, and other LARPs in this area, there is this focal point. Like, if you want to know what's going on, they're going to tell you, like, go to the hall, go to the tavern.
Yeah.
There's another LARP group that Candace is a part of. It's called Alliance. And I'm not active in that group, but I went up there to go talk to Candace, to come say hi and say hi to some of my friends. You know where I went? I went to the tavern. And you know what I found? All the people I needed to talk to, 90% of them, at the tavern. And even if it was people I didn't know, I go, hey, I'm looking for such and such at a game and all that fun stuff. And they're like, oh, they're over there doing this adventure. And I got a part of the story. I was included into their story as an outsider. This is very much like the center point of the game of it. So you have that part of it. So, like, food is the ultimate equalizer. I mean, everyone's going to need food. Everyone's going to need to eat. The person you're not having a good time with, they get hungry too. The person you're having a great time with, they get hungry too.
Yeah, I would say food is key to LARP.
Yeah.
Especially on weekenders. If we didn't have the food, if we didn't have these people making it, weekenders would be nigh impossible. Because then you've got everyone who's trying to make their own food, and everyone isn't going to be as well prepared. So someone might take 2 hours to make their food and eat it, and they're going to miss out on stuff. So
Absolutely.
it's key.
The first weekender that we went to, our first LARP event ever, I was like, $20 a person for food? I'm like, I'm bringing me, my husband, and 3 of my kids. That's a lot of money. I'm like, that's $100 for food for the weekend. I was like, no, I'm going to bring my own food. And I mean, what? It cost me $120 to buy my own food.
Yep. You spent $120.
And then I had to be basically away from the game to cook it and prep it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this again. This is dumb. I'm going to just eat at the tavern.
It's a huge part of immersion doing that. I mean, like, I have no problem with people cooking their food. There's a few players that cook their own food.
Yeah,
I believe almost everyone at the Black Widow, all the pirates.
Yeah.
Almost all of them.
Yeah, Rob cooks for them,
which is totally fine because they usually are way too drunk to come play normally. Sorry, in-game stuff there. But that's the way they like to play. That's the way we know they play. And these are old veteran players. They're not hyper interested in the current day-to-day module running. They're there to show support to a system and friends that they love playing with.
Yeah.
So like that is a really awesome thing for them to do. On top of that, they like to go to bed early or really late and sleep in a long time. So their meal times are like the exact opposite of the rest of the town.
Yeah.
So yeah. That being said, the meals that we do, we made a conscious decision not to do hot dogs and hamburgers this last season. Which I love hot dogs and hamburgers. I was like, I'm an American. I want my hot dogs and I want my hamburgers. I want those things.
Actually really had a hard time doing the spaghetti because I know spaghetti is another common one. That's
we did it once this whole year.
It was really, really cheap. That was the least expensive weekender for food.
We did Italian, right?
Yeah, we did Italian that
But
weekend.
we did chicken marsala. We did a lot of stuff. We did a lot of Mediterranean food.
Yeah, this is the only. I was like, okay, we can do spaghetti. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and the spaghetti was a huge hit because it was very rare. This last season, we did spaghetti once, and everyone, oh, spaghetti! You know, it's not like, oh, yay, spaghetti. We've had that every meal for the last, and I understand spaghetti's an easy thing to do, and it's also great. We also remember it was at lunch, all that carb. That was one of those super late dinners because everyone loaded up on spaghetti, and we almost didn't have to make dinner that night. That was a very good weekend.
If it says I used to hang out in my structure, but I'm finding it way more fun to hang out in the tavern.
Good. Yes. Yay! That's what we want. That's what I like seeing. I like seeing players come out because I finally get to know Boji. Yeah. I finally got to meet with a lot of players. I had a lot of being a barbarian. The first weekender where we got rained out hard the very first night. It was so cold. So wet. But I thoroughly enjoyed it because I finally got to do some serious roleplay, and I got to Zharn as a barbarian got to hang out with the other barbarians.
Yeah.
And talk barbarian politics, barbarian conditions, which doesn't really get to happen that often. I think I missed Boji on that one. I had Banner and Crow, primarily because I was already 3 sheets drunk. And I believe Banner was already pretty good smashed on that one as well, but it was really enjoyable.
So, Gutsy's says, I don't
Gutsy's Oski.
That one.
That's my brother-in-law.
Okay. So it's all you're choosing then. For example, I could be sleeping during the night and something happens to my character then, correct?
It can happen. It has happened to me. I was going back late. I'm Tavern Keep. I was going back. I went and took care of something. Going back. It was the middle of the night. I was tired. An NPC jumped me and killed me. Thankfully.
On his doorstep.
Yeah. Thankfully, there was another player who heard and saved me. But
In
I think
his
it was like
skivvies.
in his skivvies. I think it was like at 2:00 in the morning when that happened. And we have some very specific rules, but we're also like, you can get pulled out of your tent in the middle of the night and go, hey, you have this. And if you refuse, like, I'm sleeping through it, your character will just suffer the consequences. Everyone has to sleep, and people have chosen to do that. There's been quite a few murders at bathrooms in the middle of the night. In-game murders.
Yep.
You got to be careful when you do that. Sometimes people are like, it's daylight, I'm going.
Yeah, every time I go to the bathrooms at night, I'm always like, all right, hey, I'm going to the bathroom. If I don't come back in
3 minutes.
3 minutes, come find me.
Yep.
See,
Any longer than that, I'll probably be dead.
me and Boji have a buddy system. We go together. We're like, we may feel like a bunch of high school girls, but we're going together. Because then we're safe.
Well, yeah, because you're going to get jumped. You're going to get jumped by the NPCs
So
or
bad.
jumped by a player who has it out for you. That's not very often anymore.
No, they've kind of...
That's calmed down. The focus has been on player versus environment, but now you're more likely to get pulled off and assassinated by an NPC, and the player base won't know where you're at. And I've had my stuff I've like in-game stuff broken into while sleeping. So stuff does happen.
Yeah.
But just so you know, it's not his choice. It's Plot's choice.
Right.
Yeah, so Plot does all this to you. So, but that's what they're there for, is to make the game interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
I actually had an item this last season that if our structure got attacked in the middle of the night, I became awesome. It never happened, but it would have been awesome.
It was a good just in case item.
It was a good just thing, it's now actually, I don't think it's it has expired now. I think it expired.
Yes, like a DM. So our plot team.
Yeah, they're
are-
like the dungeon master.
They're like a dungeon master, and there's usually about between 20 and 30 threads of story going on at any given time with a major arc
Yeah.
that's happening.
Or a couple major arcs.
Yeah, quite a few major arcs. So they'll have themes that will travel through the year. This last season was
Talsagor.
Talsagor, and the season before that was the restoration of necromancy to a legitimate magic that is not nearly as evil as it used to be.
It was the Blood Feast.
The Blood Feast. The season before that was Abyssal. So we have these themes, but there's a lot of story arcs happening at the same time.
So the nice thing though about us is that there's more than one, so they have each other that they can bounce ideas off of to get better ideas. So it's like a DM, but there's more than one DM,
Right. It's a
which
whole
actually
team.
makes it, in my opinion, I think it does make it better because they've got those they can bounce ideas off of each other, like I said, and they can come up with better ideas than one mind alone could come up with.
Yeah, there's 7?
I don't even know how many there are.
We call them the plot team, and there's some major plot team members, and there's some minor plot team members, and there's some of the minor ones, like some of the people who take on a minor role have some of the funnest plots because they're not invested in a huge story arc. So they'll have like, I have this one-off idea, and they push it through, and it's been really fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Tavern's been
Side
included,
quests.
so side quests.
Would I like to look at them as
See,
their
but
side
like
quests.
you role playing something actually brought a plot line to the tavern.
Yeah.
Sal and Amy. Sal and Amy role played the fact that there was fairies in the tavern, and Candace wrote this backstory.
Yeah, I wrote up a suggestion to plot about ways to include plot in the tavern so that the Tavern Keep could have some plot, as well as give some benefits to those players who volunteer to help with dishes or cooking, and so because of that now plot has included some stuff in the tavern, for the Tavern Keep and for people helping.
Yeah, for people helping, and that wouldn't have happened until a player like yourself actually said, "Hey, I want to do this," and plot went, "That's a great idea," and here's our idea back, and there's a little bit of give and take to settle it up. And I've been using it all last season, and my characters got wrapped into other things because of that. And because of the way I've chosen to run the tavern, I also have gotten wrapped into other conditions. I now probably have a bullseye on the back of Zharn's head from a certain death knight that I called out.
Good job.
Yeah, exactly. So I better be very...
Fallen.
Yes, you're fallen. I called Sir Fallen out and said he was a thing and don't talk to him. And he challenged me, and I said, "You're gonna challenge?" Yeah. Anyway, call him out. And two, I know the player, and to his credit, he played it great. And I'm thoroughly impressed with it. But now Zharn is probably, as soon as Zharn steps out of line, Fallen's gonna kill him.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right.
Oh, that was great.
So what kind of, I mean, I guess speaking along that, what kind of fun things have happened in the tavern while everyone else has been out adventuring?
Oh, I got a couple.
Yeah.
A warlock showed up and put a seal on it.
On the tavern?
Yeah. That was interesting. I've had an emissary from the Feywilds come and talk to me and give me a whole bunch of different in-game Feywild blessings from the Fey Court.
Nice.
And they actually, a retired character, Kane, he's now retired, and he's actually a member of that Fey Court in some way. They actually pulled him in on one of his required plays to come and talk to me as well during that thing. The Fey Court involvement with Zharn was very interesting. The Fey Court thinks very highly of Zharn right now because I'm nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm nice to the Fey. I'm nice to the fairies. Let's see here. The attacks from last weekender. I tried to go out and save someone and got monstered immediately. Trying to help people out in the tavern during the attacks. So
Don't do that.
don't do that. Yeah.
Hello, Frida, hello.
What things happened to you when you were running? I mean, I have a couple others that were hilarious. Watching an illegal in-game exchange happen, and they did it in front of me. Like, really, guys?
Yeah. So.
Good thing you're not a deputy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And good thing I'm not oath-bound.
He's not a lawful character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zharn's a very chaotic good.
Yeah.
Honor-bound person. I'm not a citizen of Falcon Crest. So, yeah, I like...
So Nevitz says, be sure to call on Boji if you ever need anyone thrown out of the tavern.
No, most definitely, yes. I totally agree, yes. Yeah, Boji was actually the guy who dragged my body back after I got jumped. So, if Boji remembers that. Thank you.
So Gutsy says the tavern is a lunch area. You can still be attacked. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And like we were saying earlier, I think right before you arrived, that's something that's currently...
I like the idea.
We're talking about
There-
plot.
There's something I want to do, but I don't think it's going to be physically possible with their game. I want people's weapons checked, so it makes assassination in the tavern that much scarier. Because right now everyone's porcupining, bristling with weapons, and we're all eating food, and we can't pull it out and have a fight. But if someone snuck in a little tiny LARP dagger and just did an assassination inside the tavern, that would be awesome. You know, it's like, oh, we're not supposed to have weapons. It's like the Wild West Saloon. What?
You're silly.
I love that.
No, I don't like that. No, only because as a warden, I can defend my bonds, but I can't do that without a weapon. Like, I physically have to have a weapon.
I like it completely.
No.
I love it.
No.
George, you would never check his hammer. Nope. Well, see, with some people, it doesn't necessarily work. Like with Crow, who's not there anymore, his axe would come to him regardless.
You know, exactly.
So he would check it at the door, and then he'd be, aha, sucker, like, I got it anyway. But
No, I agree, but it would add an element of reality to the scenario because it was very rare that people would eat with their weapons on them. You know, they might have their standard like little tiny dagger, their pocket knife, but it was rare. Like the Norse would eat in armor quite frequently because they're insane, but in reality, you rarely ate with your armor on. You rarely ate bristling with weapons unless you were under a siege scenario.
Yeah, but that's Northwatch all the time.
I know. But see,
Northwatch is always under siege.
the only thing that I would say would be good why we don't get attacked during meal times is that A, I could take my armor off, and like B, you're not going to have people piling shields on tables
Yeah.
because they know, okay, I'm not going to get attacked. I can leave my shield in my structure.
Actually, what I
And
really
I know, and it's not going to take up table room because I know that we're safe. And like that's one of the biggest pros I see for doing that.
Yeah, that was the other thing was.
Because I know you have a problem with that.
Well, I have a problem because we've had. It's a matter of like.
Yeah, it's not just you. People can't sit there physically. Yeah,
because we're so concerned about being attacked. So the last weekender, I asked Plot to not do those things and to let players eat. And I say, do it. Give them 30 minutes, then raid. Do it before I ring the bell. Do it before I ring for seconds. Do it at a different time so we get people eating. Because I want the shields out because I hate it because we barely can fit 50 people.
Yeah.
And if shields are covering the table, there's 10 of us standing trying to shovel food into our mouths.
Yeah.
And we're at our limit of what we can support. Like, let's make it more comfortable.
I've been thinking we need to add two 10 by 10s out front, so that we can set up weapon racks. And that way, it's not necessarily that people have to check their weapons, but there's a place to
for 'em.
put it that's not on the table.
Yeah.
And it's not on the floor.
Yeah.
That's actually a brilliant idea. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
That might be our another winter project before we build our real armor.
Oh my gosh, no more projects.
No more project? Okay.
Shush.
What remodeling the basements on the house?
Shush!
I believe. Let's see.
Driveway fence. Garden.
Nevin says, I believe the no combat in the tavern rule is made to deter people from using the tavern as refuge during attacks and abusing them. And I agree with that's part of the reason, but the other reason is so that you don't have stuff getting knocked over in the tavern.
Well, yeah, that and you don't have people. You have people sitting down eye level, and I'm formally starting to learn the sword right now. I did a lot of martial arts and full contact fighting when I was much younger, 20 years ago. So I feel like I have a lot of weapon control and a lot of tip control over my weapons, over my LARP weapons, out of practice, albeit. The people coming out, like we have people who are inexperienced, they'll come out and draw their weapon inside the tavern and hit 4 people and not even realize it. And we're all trying to eat food and drink, and it's very annoying. When we're doing it, we're also not in a Wild West saloon. I would like to do a scene where that does happen, but with players who are willing to get dirty and start a duel out. I like to have a type of role play like that where we can incorporate that and kind of illustrate that. But that's me.
You guys spelled Crow's name. You shut up.
Yeah.
Hey,
Crow.
Hey, Crow. Let's see. Nevin says, hi, I'm in the tavern, so you can't attack me. Neener. And then he says, hi, Proceed. Yes. Hello, Proceed. We were literally just talking about you, so nothing bad.
Your ears were burning?
So.
Yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've watched Candace work on it last year, and we sat down, and building that tavern has been a big joy. And now it's been a joy running it because it's been so much easier and so much funner, and we've been adding to it ever since.
So he says, we also had a big problem with casters taking refuge in the tavern but casting spells out. About me, what I missed, Gutsy says everything. Well, we were just talking about checking weapons at the door and how that wouldn't work with Crow because your axe comes back to you.
Yeah.
That's all we were talking about, but it was literally seconds before you showed up, so the timing is perfect on that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. I also like the fact that the tavern needs to become a better place for more roleplay. And that's adding to the ambiance of the game. There's some more things I would like to do.
I want a permanent structure on our permanent land. That's what I want.
Dude, I would like that too, because one of my goals would be have an open fire cook pit and do a whole lamb and start a lamb Friday night. So by the time Saturday night rolls around, we have roasted lamb, fire roasted lamb. That's one of my goals for a great LARP. And actually do a full thing. I want a longhouse. I want a Viking in it.
Yeah.
That's my idea of a fun LARP and a great weekend is have a whole roasted lamb for Saturday night dinner and have it cooking for 2 days in front of everyone. I know.
Don't get my hopes up.
There's also for the 3 vegans. I actually bounce between veganism and full meat eater. So vegetarian. Yeah, that's true. I'm more vegetarian. I bounce vegetarian. I can't have cheese anymore, so.
Yeah, but eggs.
Eggs, yeah, I eat eggs like that. So I bounce between vegetarianism and full meat eater quite frequently. So I actually like tofu. And I'm not a huge fan of bacon anymore, but I'm a huge fan of like lambs and beefs.
Whoa.
Yeah, deal with it.
It's okay, Boji. You can still be friends with Zharn, Boji. It's okay. It's okay.
That's Chris that does it. Zharn likes any meat. You just don't see him eat it.
I do really wish that we had like permanent land with like the tavern as a permanent structure.
Yes.
Though. Like it's been something that I've talked about for years, man. Like
Full pig, yeah.
yeah, just something like that would be just really awesome. It would add to the, like you were saying, the ambiance, and it would make it feel even more realistic if we had a flipping wooden, a mortar structure like.
Yeah. Or even just the appearance of a mortar structure with a nice modern metal roof.
Yeah.
To really echo the rain. No, I'm kidding. But like, have some place where we can have some walls up and some nice road packs, so there's no dirt.
Yes.
And we can all enjoy the faux medieval atmosphere that we want to be playing in.
Right.
So.
My producer says you might get me there if there's a full pig picking.
Well, we might do it. I'm thinking Mediterranean style or Roman style lamb. So, because that would have been far more common in the date ranges we're playing, like the style of medieval we're going for. Lamb would have been far more common than roast pig.
Yeah, like in medieval days.
Because Gutsy earlier said that he made a character like Thor, which we missed. And then Proceed says that I didn't make him that way. I actually ended up sacrificing myself for my axe, so it became bound to me. And then Gutsy says, like in medieval days. And then I think everyone hope is for the actual structures. Yes.
Yes. That's been an ongoing conversation. And I personally think I would love to be able to do it. And so we can park the kitchen trailer there during the summer season.
Yeah.
And there's talk of actually deploying the kitchen trailer more often. So
yeah, using it for like Winterfest.
Using it for the Winterfest, setting up the tavern for Winterfest, and just doing our own thing. Also deploying it for a longer day event, so we just open up the kitchen side and we can cook a small meal for a Saturday meal.
Oh, nice.
So there's been talk about that. I'm up for it because we don't need to deploy everything. We just need to deploy the cooler and a stove, and we got food, and we can have a nice roast dinner on an all-day Saturday event. That would be really fun.
So Gutsy asked structures like a campsite or a car. So structures are like our buildings that we stay in. So like, for example, me and Boji stay in the Hall of Smash. We just recently changed the name, which is our tents and some pavilions with some walls that we put up. And that is our actual physical building in the town.
Excuse me.
The tavern is a physical building in the town, and they're all dictated by yellow rope. And then there's other colors that you can have for like wards and stuff like that. But most everyone stays in the structure. Like, you can show up and just be like, here's my tent, I'm not in the structure, but you are a lot more exposed to attack when you do something like that.
Yeah.
So but what we've been talking about with the tavern specifically is that we want an actual physical building to host the tavern.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people want to be able to do physical buildings for their structures rather than doing a tent or a trailer or whatever.
Yeah. Like example right now, it's just like a giant tent. It's like a giant canopy, which works, but it would be a lot cooler to have
a longhouse.
Like a wooden longhouse or, brick and mortar or whatever, whatever we decide to do. But eaten by a dragon, then yes.
Yes. I would totally love to have a full longhouse. The Good Night Inn that we now basically have a Good Night Inn too. Josh has taken a back seat to it. We actually have a lot of canopies and tents. We've laid down carpets.
Yeah, he does.
The Good Night Inn was once just a collection of tents that we just roped together, and it was like, yeah, whatever. We went out and spent a little bit of money, got a nice 10 by 20 canopy, set it up, throw down some carpets, and the next thing we know, people are role playing in it. The Good Night Inn is people are wanting to come and hang out with us. It became the map room for one thing, so it's been really awesome.
What would you do if a woman appears doing LARP as a succubus? Gutsy says that would be awesome. So a succubus is more of like a monster, and it's not really like a playable race that you could do. We actually have playable races, which we discussed last week.
But you can totally role play.
Yeah,
That's
you
what
could,
you're going to be doing.
Yeah, you could role play acting like that for sure, but you'd have to keep it semi-family friendly because this is a family-friendly game. There are young kids there, so you couldn't be.
Yeah, my character Aziza is a little bit that way. She's not necessarily going to try to convince you to come to bed with her, but she will definitely talk to you about coming to bed with
Yeah,
her.
and especially if you're a pirate, which apparently I am
if you're a
today.
pirate.
So like there's you can role play it that way, and you can start off with like a normal human race and then work your way, because that would be like a great dreadlord class, a necromancer class type of character play right there. So there's ways to role play it,
Yeah,
and you
it
don't
would
have
have
to
to be
be
kids.
a succubus, but you can model your play
Yeah.
like a succubus.
Yeah, you could act like one, but you wouldn't physically be one for sure.
And if you pick the dreadlord class, you could probably become one.
Yeah.
You will also become an NPC very fast.
Human warlock witch with a demon pact. Exactly.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you talk to, and Plot knew what you were trying to do, they might work with you to actually make, like he was saying, to make it where it eventually does happen that way. Gutsy Zosky says you can bring kids. The answer is yes, but under a certain age they can only page, and then under a certain age they can't really participate at all.
Yeah, and they have to have a guardian there.
Yeah.
So like when we bring our younger kids, they're usually by our sides all the time.
Yeah.
We have some older kids that are now able to play at full level, but we have to be participating. So
Why did you never say this? I don't know. I never knew that you were that interested in doing this. But like,
Yes, bring your kids.
yes,
what's the age for paging?
up to
8 to 12, isn't it? Or
8 to 12.
that's required paging. Anyone can page at any time.
Now,
Jessica
our-
brought her mother and she paged. So
Yeah.
Our son Kale is 10 and he doesn't page.
yeah.
So it also kind of depends on what you and your child are comfortable with as well.
Because if they're okay with taking a boffer hit from a weapon from an adult, they will probably be totally fine.
yeah, I think your kids would be fine. I've seen how you guys wrestle, so
Yeah, so it's a matter of we don't want to have to
Don't treat it like a baby's
dumb it down,
Yeah.
I guess, too much for the kids. So if the kids can handle playing on that
okay.
adult level, then yeah.
very random. Sorry, but I want to know your take on exotic mounts.
Well, okay. In this
don't
world,
have-
in Cerealia,
There are no
they
mounts.
they actually made it so there is no mounts per se. Horses don't exist in this
Yeah,
world. There was there's exotic mounts, but like they're usually reserved for NPCs and character players that are no longer playing. That is just because logistically it's not going to work out. It doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
When you're LARPing, we have an inside joke called LARP physics, where the players move a little faster than the NPCs can set up. They go, yeah, you're still walking, just stand here for 10 minutes. You
Yeah.
guys go set up
Walking
stuff.
hold.
Walking hold. We call it LARP physics. You're also, like, I like the idea of exotic mounts. Because I'd be like, I just flew in on my dragon, or I flew in on my hippogriff. That type of stuff does kind of happen, but for NPCs, for a player to have it, it would be a little overpowered.
Yeah, no, the rules side of the game, the people in charge of the rules are like, no,
not gonna happen.
We can't do this. We can't even play around with giving players the hope of doing this because it is so difficult to control.
Oh, that
And-
just people. Oh, I wasn't there. I was on my mount. It's like it's a very easy excuse to save your player
difficult
constantly.
to phys rep, which is making a physical representation of what you're doing. We want this to be.
Oh, come on! They could just get a little
As-
pony and a horse like this, and they could glue some wings on it and just ride around like this, and they can have someone clopping behind them.
Yeah.
That's an
Back-
exotic mount. Yeah,
Backpack on.
yeah it's like you in the chair.
She ignored that.
Yeah.
I remember that. Anyway, so Amy Chibi, first off, you don't have to apologize for asking questions. That's what
Yeah.
we're here for. We love questions, so you don't have to apologize for that. Amy Chibi then says, I have always thought it would be cool to have a hippo as a mount, something like a half-orc barbarian or something, just very random idea. That is kind of fun.
I think totally you should, like, if something like that, you should totally do that. And you go, I ride my hippo when I take care of my fields at home.
Yeah, you could.
You could totally say that. It's like, I have it, but it's just not here. I don't have an ox. I ride a hippo. A hippo plows my fields for me. A hippo is my war mount. They run faster than a horse anyway. You could totally just role play that. You just don't have it.
Yeah, you just physically wouldn't have it in game because there's no way to do that. And like Cheyenne said, the thought of someone bringing a horse would be scary too, just because you can't really. They get scared.
Yeah.
And we're running around yelling things.
Yeah, we're running around yelling, moving fast, and they could.
Could you imagine a horse getting hit with one of your guys' weapons
And then kicking somebody? Yeah, like that's the problem with it. That's why they were like, we don't even want to consider it because the logistics just are not possible.
Right.
Can you bring dogs or cats? Maybe a parrot. We do have someone that brings their dog regularly. It's a really small dog, but I don't think that matters.
And there's been a couple of dogs. The issue, there's been a few dogs that have been brought. The issue with pets is that it gets really hot. So you have to mind your pet. One of my personal irritations is that I know people love their animals and they want their animals, and I'm happy. Like there's one player that brings their dog all the time, and I have dog sat for her. Not my idea of a good weekend for me. So like bringing pets, you have to be responsible for them, because it's really sad when you bring your pet because you love your pet, and then you want to go play for 6 hours, and the pet is suffering for that. So be careful. You have to be conscious of that. And
one of the big things with animals too is that you have to consider how they're going to react to combat.
Yeah.
And react to you getting hit with swords, fake swords. So that like sometimes dogs do not like that, and parrots might swear at you. I'm not sure. It depends on what you've said to them.
Like a parrot might be cool, but I don't know how it would react to so many people. You know what I mean? It would be something that you would have to know your pet very, very well. I don't know that there's necessarily any rules on not bringing a parrot or anything like that. And like someone bringing a falcon would be awesome because that would add to the immersion. But again, you got to worry about the falcon freaking out and scratching someone's eyes out unless they've got it, tethered or whatever, like they do.
The health of the animal, because birds do not like being stressed that way.
Yeah.
And you could seriously hurt the health of a beautiful bird by bringing them around a whole bunch of weird people yelling 50 normal. So you be aware of those things.
Yeah, actually, Nevitz has a good idea. A fireside would be a good idea to bring a pet to, because firesides are a no combat role play encounter, and that might actually be a very great time where you don't normally bring it on like a weekender, but you could bring something like that to a fireside, and that would add a lot of immersion to it for sure.
Oh, that would be awesome, because I would love to come in as Zharn with 2 well-trained dogs that would just sit and heal by me. That would be awesome. But I'm never going to have 2 well-trained dogs.
I was going to say, we don't have any dogs.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not going to happen. B, I don't have the time to well-train any dogs, but I'm going to have it in my head canon. That's what's going on.
Yeah. So let's see. Nevitz says, I thought about bringing a baby drake, my bearded dragon. He's always been worried because of the temperature fluctuation, which that's always what he's been worried about. And then Gutsy says, bringing my giraffe then. Okay.
Please. Do it. I want to see you writing it.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, that was, see. Have you ever had a person using a shield, Captain America style throwing?
No. Shields are specifically not throwing weapons for 2 reasons. One, shields have a lot of mass to them, and you can take someone's face off with a shield. Doing ACL combat, armored combat, shields are a physical weapon, and being shield punched in the face repeatedly with a not real shield, but enough that I had to wear physical armor for, no.
Yeah.
It's a safety thing. I like the imagery.
You can't shield bash somebody. You can't hold your shield and walk into somebody.
Yeah.
You can't punch
you have to be geared up
your
for
shield.
that. You have to be geared up for that. SCA is gearing for that. You can, if you want to do that type of combat. SCA doesn't allow that.
Yeah, I don't know what SCA.
I don't think SCA allows that. You'd have to do other forms of combat to have that experience.
Yeah. So they aren't weapons at all in our LARP. You cannot throw anything with a core, hard points, or able to hurt someone. Yep. Plus, the other thing is that it's not going to come back to you. You're going to throw it, and then it's just going to sit there.
I love the image, but you'll throw it, the NPC will just bat it away with their boffer, and then the reality is that you no longer have a shield.
And they might step on it and break it because combat gets nuts.
Yeah. Armor gets ruined easily.
Yeah.
Our latex weapons get chomped on all the time.
Yeah, so that's the only thing about that is it's a cool idea. It just unfortunately
There's a reason
since we're based in reality, just some things just don't work, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
there's a reason why it worked great in the comic books, because it's a brilliant idea.
yeah,
And it never really existed.
it is I, the boss of bits. Welcome, Lone Star.
Hey, Lone Star.
Hello.
You were damaged earlier, but I don't actually see it showing up on your health bar. But so something happened, but because we had a follower and followers damaged the bit boss, but there's no damage.
Oh, okay.
Or it's so minuscule it didn't show up. One of the two, but let's see. Somehow I imagine a character using sound attacks, like yelling really loud.
There's magics that will do that, but like there was an NPC event that I did where we were playing Spirits of Rage. We were playing against we were playing against the Gyrodeskis. We were NPCing for them. So we were fairly powerful creatures, and we would come in as Spirits of Rage, and we would yell really loud at them. But it was meant to disorient and confuse the players, as opposed to be a weapon itself.
Yeah, because we don't really have like a sonic damage type, which is what yelling usually is associated with. So
We have a lot of buffs. So.
yeah, so there's like fear and terror, which is like a yelled attack.
Yeah,
but
and Crow just said there's Banshee's Wail.
Yeah.
Is a spell.
Yeah, status effects are done by voice.
Yeah.
So we have there's effects that happen, but as a damaging thing, no, that I'm aware of.
Bit dance, we got some bits from Lone Star. Oh yeah. Thank you, Lone Star, for the bits. Let's see. Proceed says, I've considered bringing my huskies to a weekender.
That'd be fun.
Do you have any female warriors? Yes, we do.
Yep. Alita.
So this is my tavern character, but my main character is a frontline fighter.
Lita.
In full plate.
Sitka.
Yeah, we got a lot of female
We
warriors.
got Rayla.
Yeah.
And then I
I
think
know all
that's,
their real names. I don't know their in-game names.
yeah, that's Rayla's in game, Sitka in game. We got Lita in game that are frontline fighters.
A new a player that is retiring is bringing in a frontline fighter.
Oh yeah, Rory.
Rory, yes.
So
And there's a couple barbarians. There's a couple female barbarians that frontline fight.
Oh, you're talking about Laden. She doesn't
Late,
play
late,
Laden.
Laden's probably not gonna. Laden's probably gonna be
She's a
taking a break.
spellcaster anyway.
wait, is
Yeah,
she
she-
done?
She's taking a break from Mythic for a while.
I just bonded her.
I know it's personal life. Is what happens.
Personal issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's
talk
also there's quite a few female warriors. Actually.
Let's see. So hold on, we gotta catch up now. Can you be a barbarian like on Diablo using shouts? I mean, you could potentially say that you're throwing spells by shouting. You'd have to work something out with.
Yeah.
But let's see. And then Proceed says barbarians are certainly a thing. Things like leap are hard as in LARP. If you can't do it, then you can't do it, which is true. Amy Chibi says, do you have any bars that play real instruments? Yes, we do.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my favorite parts of the Talsagor Weekender is that, and they've actually incorporated it into the Bard class now.
Yeah.
She actually played on her guitar and sang a song twice, and by doing so, granted us special abilities in the upcoming battle,
Yeah,
They
granted
were-
us buffs and boons.
which
And they
was
were-
cool.
Beautifully haunting songs.
Yeah, so
I cried.
there is actually, real instruments and bards that play the real instruments, and it was
Oh, it's
so
better.
cool.
You don't have to.
Lay
but
it
it's
Yeah, you don't
definitely
have
better.
to. Wait, who's taking a break? Yeah, Layden is taking a break, I guess. I just found out about this.
Yeah.
Let's see, I would just be a fatty leaper. I mean, but the problem with leaping, though, is that sometimes you're going to get too much momentum behind your strike.
Yeah.
So you got to remember that is that we're...
Yeah.
You're gonna find out the thing that's gonna hurt you the most is yourself as you hit things.
Yeah.
Doing LARP combat and then doing full metal combat. I got hurt more by falling in real armor than I did getting hit by a real axe.
I didn't.
Yeah, no, you got hurt by a real axe. In LARP combat, we have to be very careful of that because we're playing with foam swords and parry, riposte, thrust. Oh, isn't that cool? It's fun. And then that's the goal, is to have fun. Trying to monster someone, that's an easy thing to do, but that's not the same thing.
Well, and the other thing is you got to think about, like, I'm wearing armor, so if you hit me hard, it's not really going to affect me, but not everyone is wearing armor. And so people who are wearing just plain clothes, if you swing too hard, you're going to hurt them. These things can bruise, especially when it gets cold. They become a lot harder than they should be, and they can and they will bruise someone. So you got to be careful with how you're attacking. Let's see. I'm all about bard classes, I think is what that's supposed to say, because he's been talking to me about that a little bit. And this is, do you have a real blacksmith? No.
So not in
game,
Mythic, not
yeah.
in game. There's not a real blacksmith. We have armor smiths and weaponsmiths. That's a role play thing.
Yeah.
It's a crafting, in-game crafting, but it's not like actual blacksmith.
Yeah, we know the real armor smiths.
Yeah, we know real
armor
blacksmiths
smiths.
if you
We've
wanna
hung
get
out with
into-
them. If you want to, we'll go get pictures of their shops. They look really modern. Really hard to move those things
Amy
around.
Chibi says, so that means a person that actually knows martial arts could enter as a monk.
That's where things. Yes, you can. Monk's a higher level class. I know martial arts. That's a higher level class. So there's rules about how it works. You're not allowed to really use your physical hands. So there's ways to do that. You'd be treated with claws, and there's effects and stuff
So
like that.
basically, instead of using your hands, you get to use a weapon that is red, and that indicates that this is your hands, rather than this is a weapon, is that they're red.
Yeah, Nevitt said, or Proceed with Caution says, practical martial arts will not help you much in LARP combat, and Nevitt's Gaming agrees with that.
Oh, yeah. Dalton and I were exchanging stories. Dalton had formerly learned the sword a long time ago, and he did this beautiful parry and riposte and hit a player. In real life, it was a killing blow. In LARP, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Because we are playing fantasy. So, like, I know short stick fighting and a lot of weapon traps. And there's a lot of my habits that I do when I was fighting that are not allowed in this form of combat. So I don't do them. It's an easy thing not to do. And it's play fighting. It's not real fighting.
Yeah.
Real fighting's a completely different world. And I don't care what you think you know. In real fighting, which I have done, it is years of training just to be able to do it effectively, and we're playing. So
This is more like a tap for points combat versus I want to hurt you combat.
it's a completely different world.
Let's see. So, yeah, he says, no, Prosiba says, no throws, takedowns, strikes, holds, etc. are allowed in LARP combat. Gutsy says, I would not be able to do this except for one day, which would be Sundays. Would that be an issue? The other thing is Sundays are only during weekenders, and Sundays are when we're usually wrapping things up. So you could come play, but it would only be about for 4 or 5 hours. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that is still an option.
And those days are prorated on the weekenders.
Yeah.
So you can totally come and play for 4 or 5 hours. And Sunday's not a bad day. You get there early enough.
Yeah.
And you will actually be there on probably the most profitable campaigning part of the day. Next, there's other days, there's other events.
Yeah.
I work nights, so I only typically get the weekender season to come play. So that's a little bit of a thing that I was like, I can't wait to get done with this degree so I can be on days and so I can play with my wife and all of our friends constantly, because that would be a dream come true, is playing LARP constantly. So
Yeah, as Proceed says, most of our events are on Wednesdays. We do have Saturdays eventually or occasionally. Amy Chibi says all the settings are always medieval times. For Mythic Realms is medieval. But
high fantasy.
high fantasy.
yeah, high fantasy. But there are some, depending on where you live. Like I know even here in Utah, I think they have a steampunk one. They have a post-apocalyptic one with zombies and stuff.
The post-apoc ones are fatting out pretty bad right now.
Yeah.
There was a national one, but it's starting to collapse. But you can do
yeah.
post-apocalyptic. Utah LARP has a couple groups. Steampunk,
Rexeret,
Amped Guard.
Amped Guard, and
I don't know how
Felgars.
Amped Guard is doing right now. I heard that they're in a state of flux, which is sad.
Yeah, a lot of the big national games are going through some
Yeah, it's
waves
a flux
right now.
Yeah, some waves.
Waves.
It's
Yeah.
also. I'm not a huge fan. I'm so tired of the zombie genre right now.
I have to agree with you there. I know that might piss some people off, but
I'm just tired of it.
it's kind of been overdone in my opinion. But they do have LARPs that do deal with zombies, and they actually have padded weapons for them. Like you can get like a padded
We do fight zombies, for them,
Yeah.
wrench, but we do fight zombies too. But
but not post-apoc
Not-
style.
not-
yeah,
post-apoc
it's not
style.
a post. Yeah,
Fantasy style.
Fantasy
zombies.
style. In each game, in each one of those games has a different rule set, and they have a different thing. But I would still say that even on their weekend or season, you're going to find that there's one spot in the community, in the real life community, where they go and hang out, and that's still the tavern. That's still the hall. That's still the dining mess hall. That is still the center location. So you'll find it everywhere.
yeah. Yep, I guess that's probably true. So
Right here, by the way.
Okay, where's that?
And Evans, he said he can't use his real weight and strength.
yeah, Nevis, I can't use my real weight and strength to my advantage in LARP. Yeah, because if he did, he would definitely very much hurt somebody. Gutsy says, "Do a barrel roll, Nevis." Double tapping zombies is a thing in our LARP though, lol, which is true. You have to you have to killing blow them twice, or they'll get back up.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I don't know when the first time that they changed the rules on that, but people learn very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So
No, that was very painful. Well, speaking to you, Boji, about using your physical weight and skill, there's been many times where I am. That's why you see me when I NPC, you'll see me go to short weapons. I don't do long, and I go to short weapons, and I'll move in such a way. I'm like, oh, I want to hit there, and I actually let my habits come through, and I neck shotted someone 3 times in a row, and that poor little person was Dagger.
oh,
Good job.
And it was on 3 separate occasions, and I totally neck shot her 3 times in a row because that's my habit, and I felt really bad. I apologized profusely to her. She goes, "What's with the neck shots tonight?" I'm like, "I'm so sorry." And 2 of them happened in quick succession because that's how I go. When I go, I move very fast, and it's called Joe stick fighting, Filipino stick fighting, very similar. It's a very brutal sport. I have many bloody knuckles from it, many hits in the forehead from it. That style of combat's not allowed. I'm not allowed to do it, but there's a lot of techniques I use very effectively from it. And I tend to, when I go at it full bore, I can tend to fight off 4 or 5 LARPers at the same time and not get hit until I get swarmed as an NPC, which happens all the time. But, part of the game. In ACL, your size is a huge advantage. There's our mutual friend. He stands at 6'6", 6'5", and full kit, he's about 400 pounds. And I watched him just grab someone and just push him into the dirt. You can't stand against that. So there's different ways. If you want to have that type of play, that type of fighting, there's whole organizations for it.
yeah, you just have to find the right one.
Yeah,
All right, well, thanks for being here. Proceed with caution. You don't have to apologize for being late.
Yeah.
Tell your mom happy birthday from us.
Oh, happy birthday!
So
Happy birthday
And
to
I actually-
you.
I know you're. Yeah. So and then Amy Chibi says, "Any pirates?"
Lots of
Yeah,
Yes.
almost a whole ship's worth on a landlocked country.
Well, and they're trying to rebuild their ship.
Yep.
Reforge isn't the right word.
Well,
yeah,
they're
Their ship is in the dream world right now.
Yeah, and they're also very drunk all the time.
yeah.
The pirates don't get a lot of stuff done. They get a lot of gambling done.
Yes, they do get a lot of gambling done.
But yes, there's tons of pirates, and the aesthetic works very well. And it's a very nice, comfortable aesthetic. You can actually find a lot of good, comfortable, warm clothing in the pirate aesthetic because it's very served, and you can find anything you want in it. So.
Yeah. So, David says, because of my weight and strength, I have to be extra careful. Yep.
Yeah, weapon control is the thing because you get used to it and you can easily smash someone's face in with a foam weapon, and it's very uncomfortable and it hurts, and it's not an intentional
Getting
thing.
hit in the face with a foam weapon sucks.
Especially when it's cold and wet.
Yeah.
It stings. There's a couple people that I have when it's just me and them. Just we tend to go at full speed, and they'll bruise me, and I will bruise them. But we can easily bruise each other very hard when we do it. But I don't do that with a group of people. So.
Have you ever had a very tall woman being an Amazon? I don't think we ever have.
That would
I
be
don't know,
awesome.
most of the women that play, I don't know that we have any like really tall. We're all about average height.
That would be awesome. An Amazon would be cool.
Yeah, an Amazon warrior would be kind of cool to see something.
You could totally do a barbarian class on that one.
Yeah,
and
you'd be a barbarian and then just act like an Amazon. That would work. So it's all just within the rules. You have to.
My wife is an Amazon. She should
You
come
have
back.
to.
That is awesome.
You have to use the. The races that are existent and try to make adaptations. But a fighter barbarian.
Oh yeah.
Would totally be you would just have to play it like an Amazon, but that would work.
Yeah.
Would Sonya count for that? I don't know that she was an Amazon. She was.
That's a different world, but I totally like the image. Do it.
So.
They're so strange.
My wife is an Amazon with Sonya. Let's see. Let's say your character is a beast tamer. How would you play that?
Well, there's different types of.
You'd have to be like an animal speech. There's certain.
That would be a
things
druid,
in
probably.
game that you would have to do.
You have to roleplay that.
Basically, how all of these ideas work is that you say, this is what I would like my character to be, and then you refer to the rule book and you say, okay, which skills and abilities and races and whatnot match most closely to what my goal is.
Yeah.
So you're never going to get exactly what you want because we don't have a beast tamer, right?
Yeah.
That's just not a thing. But we have druids.
We have druids that get animal
know.
friendship and animal companions and can do things with animals.
Yeah.
So you can actually go into that or figure out a way to learn that in some fashion or get items that allow you to do
Now,
that.
and you can always do whatever you want. You can have your character be whoever they are outside of the actual gameplay. So in your downtime is what we call it. So Izak is he's a cattle rancher, right? There's nothing in Mythic's rule books that says this is what a cattle rancher gets.
Yeah,
right?
he made it up.
But he talks about herding his cattle all the time, and that's part
on
of who his
foot,
character
by the
is.
way, because there's no mounts. Who has had the trained squirrels? That was
That's Jayla.
Jayla is a druid that had trained squirrels. I don't know if it was a joke or not, but it was a funny thing. So
See you, Gutsy.
See, you got to. Okay. So let's see. Sorry. Do you have to play a character of your actual gender? I don't think there's anything in the rules that say you have to, but you have to make it convincing because you're trying to make the immersion there. So
yeah, there's a strong. I believe in Mythic, they're not allowing.
Yeah, Mythic prefers for you to play your gender.
Yeah.
Alliance LARP.
Alliance doesn't care.
Alliance LARP allows you to be either gender. You have to immerse it and make it convincing. Like if I was to play a female, it's a little difficult right now. But it would be allowed, and I can't simply go bearded woman. So you have to do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, your character looks like you look like, so you'd have to make it very, very convincing. So, Amy Chibi says, how you use an animal companion LARP, specifically in combat, does not, I'm pretty sure she means seem possible, and I guess that's really true. You don't really get animal companions like you typically imagine in like a video game or D&D, but you can befriend some of the animals that we come across. Yeah. And whether or not...
Well, there was one time the players were doing a module, and I was playing a weird two-headed dog, and it was just me in my NPC outfit.
Yeah.
And the players befriended me, and druids came up and started talking to me, and I made up a whole story on the fly because I wasn't expecting this about how dogs see through smell and how a pack. And if they wanted to join me, they'd have to prove it. And I do this, and they go, "What's my name?" And I'm like, "Oh, my name is First of the Blood." Blah blah blah. I made up all these things, and the players just ate it all up, and they befriended it. And then they went like, "What is it you do?" And I'm like, "I can eat these creatures. I love these creatures. They're my food." And they go, "Well, you don't want to fight them." So they released me to go fight for them, and it solved a huge bunch of the problems. That's how they solved the puzzle. All they had to do originally was just open the gate. That's all they had to do. But the players turned it into, let's talk, let's figure it out, let's have some fun, let's do this. And it turned into a great thing. And then that dog actually became someone they were trying to communicate with later. And plot had to deal with it because that's what the players wanted to do.
So yeah, the players have befriended animals, and I've played druids. After the players get done killing a whole bunch of wildlife, like you would do in a fantasy game, I come in as a druid saying, "Have you seen my wolf pack? I just barely moved it here." I've done that a few times.
Yeah.
That's fine. See, Gutsy says, I am not Airstar's brother-in-law. I am his mortal enemy, by the way. And then Amy Chibi says, what happens when a person in a wheelchair wants to do LARP?
You come and do LARP.
Yeah, we accommodate as best as we can.
We'll figure out how you get there. We'll figure out how you do it. We'll make it work.
We really try to be very inclusive and accommodating to people. If we're at a park that is difficult for a wheelchair to get around, then we still will have people who will try and help you get around.
There's some physical things.
We'll always know what parks beforehand, and we can look into accessibility at those parks and whatnot. We can always choose to stay on the sidewalks versus going through the bushes if that better accommodates.
Or there's always a chance for there's always a sidewalk option. So there's people who don't want to go through the bushes anyway, and they're able-bodied, and they'll walk on the sidewalks.
Yeah.
There's people who are able-bodied and they don't want to walk up a hill because of other issues. You just got to know that there are physical limitations, and you're not alone. No one's alone in that front. So I'd say come out and LARP anyway because it's fun.
She says, I'm guessing the easiest class would be a mage, so the person can still do a lot. That's probably true, but
major healer.
Healer also no, but you guys the fighting on those chairs as griffins, that was a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And it is possible and kind of effective. I don't think that's an impossibility.
No.
Giving you a foam sword on a wheelchair might
absolutely
add an element to it because you would be untargetable most of the time.
It'd be easy for him to play gnome too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or
like a
halfling.
mecho gnome, a mechano gnome, or something like that,
Yeah.
or a mechanical human.
tinker.
Oh, the tinkerers. Oh, that would be a fun thing to have. There's a lot there. There's a lot. To play with
So
there.
it's all a matter of imagination and ingenuity, right? Yes, it might be easier for you to sit there and throw spell packets versus having to try to engage in melee combat. But if you want to engage in melee combat, then
Let's engage. And there's ways to do melee combat. There's ways around it, and a lot of the people we play with like to accommodate that.
So you can make a cosplay for your wheelchair and say something like a personal steam tank or something similar. I think something like that you'd have to talk to Plot, but I would imagine they would be accommodating to you for something like that for sure. So
I would make sure that you'd have an off-road wheelchair just for your your ability to be comfortable, something that you could be secured, and make sure the people around you know how to assist you the way you want to be assisted.
Yep.
So that way you can have that safety net that you can rely upon, and that we would know how to give you that safety net. Those are things that, like, very simple logistical things where you can make yourself a happy person and everyone around you wants you to be happy too.
And that might be one of the few scenarios where earlier when we were talking about mounts, we were saying that's not possible, but with a wheelchair being in the scenario, that may be one of the few times where they're like, sure, it's a mount, something like that. It's an exotic mount with a hippo, or like you were saying. So something like that, since, we were unaware of that earlier, it still might be a possibility. It's just something that you have to talk to, the runners, the guys that run the game. So, and gals.
Okay.
So.
Great question.
Yeah, it's a good question. But yeah, I think something like that would be kind of fun. So.
Sorry.
Let's see. It's not my particular case, just very curious person. Sorry. What are the most exotic races you have to play?
Human. Almost no one's human.
We've got 4 different elves, 3 different dwarves. We have barbarians. We have Thorgs.
Fae. All
which
the
are kind of like a half orc. Fae.
all the different versions of
I'll
Fae.
pull up last week's YouTube link.
Yeah.
So last week we actually went over all of the races, and we're gonna link the video here for you so that you can watch it
It
later.
wasn't last week, it was a week.
Oh, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, last week was player emissary.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So 2 weeks ago we went over all the races and stuff like that, and there are quite a few. I think personally, in my opinion, the most exotic race is probably the Parthen, which are cat people. Just because it's a lot.
Yeah, so either the
right
Parthen
there,
or the
Listen
the
to
Fae.
the LARP Lounge live.
So Fae can have horns and wings, and they glitter. So like I guess that all depends on like what's your definition of exotic most.
Actually,
exotic?
some of the Fae do get looking pretty exotic as well.
Yeah.
So, do you need to change your appearance depending on the race you pick? Yes, you do.
Hence why I look like a pirate right now, even though I'm a barbarian.
Yeah, so there's the link to the video where we talk about races and the makeup that's required to play those different races, so you can watch that at a later point if you want. But yeah, so there are quite a few races. There are requirements of what makeup you have to wear in order to play those races,
Yep.
just for the immersion. They have, however, sometimes if you're not in makeup, sometimes they'll choose an ability that you don't have access to. So yeah, it's a whole video. Yeah, we talked about it for quite a bit. So, because there is a lot of different races and there's a lot of different makeup required for them. So yeah, it's a whole video about it. So if you want to learn, and if you want, you can just look at all our other videos where we talk about classes or mostly skills. We've talked about all of the basic skills up to this point as well too, so you could watch those to learn what you could and could not put together to create, like an Amazon or whatever that you were asking about. So it's just all stuff that you have to just kind of figure out within the rules.
Yep. And of course, reaching out through our forums or on our Facebook page or anything, we've got a lot of people who are willing to help. There's no age limit to LARP, right? So there's no like age restriction. There are restrictions on what you can do based on your age. So let's say I am 70 and I want to LARP as an age. Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Our age restrictions are younger.
Are younger.
Right? If you're under 13, you have to have an adult with you.
Well, unless you want an adult with you. We could do that. Like if you're physically able to like be hit with weapons, I would encourage that. If not, we will give you a page sash, which means that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it means you don't.
There are other mechanics that go into that. You don't get physically touched or hit. We've had another player's mother who's 75 come and play with us on 2 different occasions.
Came and roleplay.
And she wore the page sash, and she wanted to be Annie Oakley.
Yep.
But we don't have guns. So she had throwing daggers, and she wanted to be Annie Oakley. She played Annie Oakley, and she she would make sure that she told everyone that she could hit a varmint in the eye with a dagger. And she was a trick throw. In LARP, she was a trick throw. In real life, she could barely throw it. But we all said, it's Annie Oakley, and we want Annie Oakley.
Right.
Yeah.
So
She was a lot of
totally.
Yeah, so even older people can do LARP. Yeah, that's totally cool. And to your previous statement, let's say you're 70 and you want to come play a mage or sage. I say, heck yeah. Like, that is the coolest thing ever. Just come do it and have some fun. So, yeah, there's no... The only age restriction, like she said, is for younger ages just because we're worried about, I guess, injuries or whatnot. So...
Yeah. Yep. And we want it to be safe
Safe and fun.
and fun for people. So.
Yeah.
Because people don't have fun if they don't feel safe.
Yep.
See, do you plan to keep doing LARP even at 60 or 70 years of age? Wow.
Don't we all? I mean, like, aren't we all doing that at some point? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I love playing dress up. I've always loved playing dress up. I don't think I'm gonna stop playing dress up.
I have met people who work until they're 80 because that's what they want to do, and they have their uniforms, they have their costume they put on. I have met people who do. We were at Kuna, Idaho, and that belly dancing club came on, and
That
they
is
were.
so
I
cool.
think the average age was 67.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's
They were so cool,
beautiful, beautiful ladies, in various states of age and body type, going out and belly dancing. It was one of the most empowering things that I saw all
Yeah, it was
weekend.
so cool.
Not because they were brave. It was also freaking cold. It
Yeah,
was,
it was
it
super
was
cold.
Idaho in October. Also, it was the fact that they were going out and just wearing it on their sleeve, and everyone loved them for it. So I say do it, yes. Wear it on your sleeve and go.
Nevitt says, as long as this LARP... Let's see, I would not recommend a 70-year-old woman play a frontline fighter, though. As long as this LARP exists, I'll be playing it at that age. Our LARP has been going on for 20 years. I say that I would like to be playing at that age, but I don't think I'll be wearing armor. At least not this armor.
I think we should put them in armor, and that way we could just go, here, sit in your corner. We'll go LARP.
I'll just sit in the corner and ramble on about the good old days of Jovi Smash. I remember when I could walk and run in this armor. Now I can barely breathe.
Someone clip that.
So, yeah, I mean, I hope to have the energy and the stamina to keep doing this for many years to come, because it is fun.
It's actually a little motivation for me because, like, I don't want to stop doing this, and so I'm like, all right, what do I have to do in my regular day-to-day life to make sure that I can be that 70-year-old woman frontline fighter? You know, like, I gotta go work out. You know, I gotta get my life together if I want to do that.
Yeah, for real. For real. So,
Oh, I love it.
so you never got to tell any of your fun tavern stories, because we kind of got...
We got sidetracked.
I don't know. I think my favorite experiences running the tavern as Amy was when I got to do it with Sal. So she was only there, what, twice, I think? Yeah, maybe 3 times, yeah.
No, 3 to 4 times.
Thanks, Evans.
Well, no, that we were playing Sal and Amy together in the tavern, running the tavern together. I think that for me, running the tavern was a totally different kind of like fun. Like it's a totally different experience than playing and following the plot and everything during the weekends, because I get to know people more one-on-one, because when large groups are out, there's only 1, maybe 2 people that are, you know, hanging back at the tavern, and you get to sit and talk and get to know them better. And sometimes it's in-game conversations, and sometimes it's out-of-game conversations. But I really enjoyed being able to just, you know, like, sit and chat while I'm, you know, finishing washing dishes or whatever, and or, you know, we start playing card games while we sit and talk. Those for me were my favorite experiences while running the tavern.
Yeah. See, that's what puts you apart, I think, from other people, because you describe it as fun running the tavern. And I don't think other people consider it to be that way. I think they consider it to be a chore.
Well, I got the same thing, because people are like, how do you do this? I'm like, well, it's like I'm serving my fellow players. Well,
Yeah.
That's how I tell myself. And also, like, I'm, if you haven't noticed, a little loud.
You've been quiet today, actually, but
I can be louder.
no, it's fine.
The people dealing with people and some of those experiences, I echo Candace in a lot of this, is when I run the tavern, someone comes in and is like, hey, you know what, I'm Tavern Keep and also technically Bar Keep, and I got to hear the stories. I got to hear player stories, and I also got to hear a lot of real life stories too.
Yeah.
So that was fun in itself.
Yeah, I could see that, how you get to that more intimate relationship with people.
Yeah.
So I can see that. Amy Chibi says, what happens when you have a rude character that tends to insult others? Is there any restrictions? Yeah, you can't go into like cussing and swearing and like super personal, like tearing them down, but there are people that are rude and insult others.
If they keep it in game correctly, it's good. But if you start using modern day words, this isn't Game of Thrones. This isn't Deadwood. If you start doing personal attacks,
that's what I meant.
You start using personal things like, oh, you have a big nose, or your hair is ugly.
that A, base, B, not very creative or good, C, it shows that you're not competent as a person to be able to roleplay. Those are just signs of it. To be insulting in a positive way, you have to be able to call people out.
To be insulting in a positive way.
Well,
I'm sorry, that just sounded
Well,
like...
for example, me as Zharn. Zharn's not a very powerful character. I called out a very powerful character on their ability, and I put them in a predicament where they couldn't break their oaths. I won the role play, even though that character could hit me in one shot and destroy me. I insulted them. I insulted their armor. Insulted everything. Honor, not armor. Honor. And they had to back down because we had to stay in character. And it wasn't demeaning. It wasn't personal. At the end of it, we actually had a little bit of a deconstruction. That player came over to me and goes, "That was awesome."
Yeah.
And I said, "Thank you. I was very intense. It was awesome too."
Doing a little bit of like out of game, making sure that everyone's okay out of game always helps.
Yeah.
But not going personal with it. Really helps.
One thing that a lot of LARPs have started instituting, especially when things start getting heated or any sort of situation that could make somebody uncomfortable, is they use this symbol, "Are you okay?" Right? And they'll just, in the middle of a conversation, just go like this, no other indication or anything, and it's either just a thumbs up or a thumbs down, right? Thumbs up is, yeah, we're fine, let's keep going. Thumbs down is like, no, like, we got to stop this.
See, and some of that comes with knowing your character and knowing that they're talking to your character and that they're not talking to you, unless, like you said, where they do start making it personal, and then that's where we kind of draw the line. Because we do have a few characters in our game that are rude and will talk down to others, or when they get angry, they just start shouting. Banner is definitely a good one at that. He just starts shouting, and if you're a witch, he will just backtalk, he will just down talk you all the time. And we had another witch who she understood it was all in game. Like, it drove her insane, but it was all in game. And she was totally cool because she knew that it wasn't like a personal attack on her. But every time he saw her, he had some snide comment because she was a witch. Yeah. The other one is... what's Marley's character that rarely shows? Yeah, Rigel very much is rude. And as Zan put it, he is a bigot. But it's all within game because he doesn't step over any of those boundaries that are just kind of there. He doesn't make it personal. So
you have to be aware. You have to be aware to your audience. You have to be aware of those types of things.
And it's also one of the good things about knowing people out of game too, is that I know that I'm more comfortable with intense role play with people that I know well out of game than I am with people I don't know very well out of game.
Well, the same is true. When I NPC a lot, there's some people listening that I NPC with, and I'm totally cool with like a lot of physical roleplay. Some of the players will actually grab my facial hair and grab my hair and go, "What am I looking at?" And I talk, it's a fun roleplay. Those are things that I'm very comfortable with because everyone knows I'm comfortable with that level of roleplay. Some people aren't. You have to know your audience. You have to have that conversation with them. Also, it's just easier not to play a rude character.
Yeah.
It's just easier.
Yeah.
It's much easier to play a nice character because a nice character is someone you want to come back to. If you play someone who's a little bit toxic, that's hard. That's hard to keep up. And that's a hard thing to do well. That's why method actors and some, how many stories have you heard about Christian Bell and how much of a dork that guy is? Yeah. He's a method actor, and I'm sure Christian Bell as a human being's nice, but when he gets into his modes, he's probably impossible to deal with because he's playing a dick. He's playing a jerk. He's playing a jerk the entire time.
Yeah.
The whole rant of him yelling at a grip on a Batman set. The guy's making millions of dollars and he's a total jerk. It's hard. It is taxing to play a jerk character. I personally don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
There's other ways to be nefarious and evil without being a jerk. A jerk's very taxing.
Okay, so we got more questions, which is great. So, yeah, just guys know that we will get to your questions. We're just going to finish the previous questions and then get them all answered. So, Amy Chibi says, have you ever had two characters falling in love? I guess Lita and Zharn are kind of like a thing, but you guys
Yeah.
out of life are like in real life are a thing. But so have we had players that have gotten together? For sure. Have we had characters that have gotten together? I don't know that I've seen it.
Yes and no.
It definitely has happened in Alliance. I haven't seen or really heard of that so much in Mythic. I know that there is a character in Mythic who fell in love with an NPC. No, we do have. So,
Well, like I know, like
Queen Natasha
yeah,
and King. What's his name?
King Gil.
Gilrendir. Galathule. Like King.
I know we all had a brain fart at the same time. Like we all were like,
What's
"What's
his
the
name?
king's name?"
Yeah, you know, like,
Sorry.
and then, when the person who played Sonia got pregnant out of game, her character basically had a secret love in game that she wouldn't tell anybody who the father was, because she was worried that for in-game reasons that her lover would be killed,
Yeah.
So there is stuff like that. Mythic doesn't focus on love stories though. Like that's not.
That's completely player driven.
Yeah, like most of the time, if someone's together in game, it's because they're together out of game. Like Boji, like Nevin says, Boji and Rayla are officially a thing now. Their last character, or her last character, was with him too because they were with each other out of game, and it's just easier to make it that way in game because it's like, why is she sleeping in the same room as him? Oh, well, because they're together.
Yeah.
So it's it's very rare to see people that are not related out of game to be in a relationship in game.
Yeah.
So, can it happen? Yes, you just have to make sure that the other person is completely comfortable with it. Like, I actually tried to pursue a romantic plot in game with someone, but I asked them before, out of game, if they were okay pursuing it in game, and they botched that immediately. Because they're like, no, because they've seen people who have taken it too far. And so I was totally fine with that, but that's kind of how you would pursue it, I think, is the proper way.
Again, that's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very taxing. The way me and Candace do it is that we are very much married and very much in love. Our characters are in-game weird. So
we're like live-in partners.
Yeah, and I've been playing the same character for a long time. She's been swapping characters, and we still keep the same level of attraction because we're in love with each other. We're married and all that fun stuff. So people have a very interesting view on Zharn, but they see me as Chris and Candace. So
yeah, well, and every one of my characters has had some sort of romantic interaction with Zharn, and I told him that I'm just trying to give him a complex because he just likes women that all look the same.
I love it. There was one character, Azizi. You played Aziza, and I call her Zizi. And I come up to her, and she goes, "You smell like a dead person."
Because,
and this
because my
reference
other
character
character
is undead.
That's funny.
So like she totally plays with it and mocks me. And then she comes back as Lita, and Lita comes up and smells and you smell like perfume.
Like, what is this that I hear about you and some other bimbo woman?
That was funny.
No, it was a very interesting roleplay conversation, and people went, "Oh, they left the tent, they left the room area that we were in," and we had a lot of fun with it. So
it was good times.
So Lone Star says, sometimes in D&D, if someone is ruining the fun for others, they're asked to withdraw from the campaign. Have you ever had to do that? I don't know that it's ever gotten to that extreme where they're asked to leave, but if they are in a moment where they're ruining it for others, someone will pull them aside and be like, hey, stop that.
there are discipline actions
Yes.
that you agree to when you come LARP with us.
Yes.
And if someone is violating the discipline actions, they will be asked to refrain from ever joining. And there's a whole layer of discipline that needs to happen. We all have to agree to it. This isn't show up and be a dork time.
Right.
Because we're all trying to have fun with each other and make it positive. And
we as a group find out those people fairly quick. They don't last very long.
Yeah.
They get burned out very quickly because who's going to respond positively to a dork? Who's going to respond? Like, you show up on town like, I'm Mr. Jerk face, and I'm going to pee on everyone. Everyone's going to be in there, and the players more powerful than you, and I've seen those new players get their feelings hurt when they step on a bigger dog. Don't do it. I mean, that's what's true in real life. It also works in LARP. So, yeah.
See, and the other thing with that is that discipline is done usually on a one-on-one basis. So we're not aware of what happens. We just know that they didn't come back for one reason or another.
Right.
We don't know that it was necessarily that they were told do not come back. Because they try to keep that personal and private.
Personal.
Because that's how it should be. They're not there to
Shame.
to shame these people in front of everybody, you know. So, and that's one thing that I've always appreciated about Mythic is that they do try to keep disciplinary things on a one-on-one basis because it's really nobody else's business.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that was like they offended a bunch of people and a bunch of people at once need to be told, hey, you're okay, they're not coming back, you know, a scenario like that. But Nevis says, I only know of 2 people who left and were asked not to return. So it does happen, but it's not
rare.
common knowledge. Yeah, and it is pretty rare because most people, or some people, will just choose not to come back for various reasons. So
Yeah.
That's why I say it's much easier to not play a jerk. Just don't do it, and you'll have a lot more fun.
super rare. Yep, Nevis is right. Super rare. It's just doesn't happen because people are there to have fun, and there's just kind of like this community mentality where people just they all kind of just sort of fall in line.
Yeah, we're all there to have fun and to help each other out and help each other have fun. It's not like this is a group effort. It's run by volunteers. We all know, like, hey, the money that we pay to attend the events isn't going into somebody's pocket. It's going into props. It's going into
Event locations.
event location fees,
Food.
and yeah, like
the kitchen trailer, objects to make the game funner, lights, glow sticks.
and all of those things also still require volunteer effort.
Yeah.
You know, so keeping in mind that it's a volunteer based game, I think helps everybody feel like, yeah, I've got to pitch in and help this rather than making it harder for other people.
Well, and I think the other reason that it doesn't happen is that people are so excited to find like-minded individuals that they don't want to do anything to be to be compromised or to get kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
So it is super rare because people, like you've heard some of my other guests say, like, this feels like their family. And when you feel like you belong, you don't want to do anything to jeopardize that.
Yeah.
So people will usually follow the rules because they finally feel like they belong somewhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Mythic is definitely my second family.
Yeah, it's very much family, and it comes with family drama. I mean, like, you get to know them on a personal level. When you break bread with them that often and that frequently, and you share LARP funk with people, the 3-day sweat.
yes.
And, you all get used to it. It's a human thing.
Yeah, when at the end of the LARP
We're all
weekender,
giving each other hugs, like, yes.
it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I stink, and you're like, yes, so do I. It's fine.
Yeah, and you
We all
you
stink.
totally enjoy it.
Oh yeah, good times.
Here's the important question. I felt it coming.
Okay.
I felt it coming. So, Chris, what's your favorite LARP memory?
Favorite LARP memory.
And you hear this every week, so you have plenty of
Yes, I had plenty of time to think about it. Well, I think it was a transition point. In my LARPing experience. I was still fairly new at it, starting to learn the rules, and my engineering mind was going on it. And Lita, I think Lita was at 70 points, maybe, when this happened. We were on an event, and we were still making friends, still learning things, and I was NPCing. And I was starting to make a name for myself as an NPC, and like I could play the monsters. Becca comes up the hill and goes, and I knew what was happening, and she goes, someone traded their souls to get the demon name. I'm like, oh, what moron did that? And Becca looks at me and goes, your wife. And I went, oh no.
She likes to give her life to demons.
Well, this is where it started.
This is the genesis.
This is the genesis of it. And so that was the beginning of where Chris gets to play boss mobs. Because I got to play Das Kalos.
Das Kalos.
Das Kalos. And watch Leaf disappear for an entire boss fight. And it was an event in which I went, oh, this is a lot funner than I thought. It is a happier note now than it was then. It's a much happier memory now than what it was originally. Because I was like, oh, it didn't seem like it was that much fun at the moment. Now, the more I think about it, I'm like, no, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was a lot more fun. Everyone actually felt scared. Everyone was tired. It was a long event. And it was the genesis of the legend of Lita the Undying. And I got to play a significant role in that beginning of her character. And I feel like I know the story because I was there, and that was a very beautiful memory. We always relive it and joke about it with our friends because it's like who's gonna sacrifice themselves? I keep Lita. Don't let Lita know if there's sacrifice involved.
Yeah, for real. So first off, thank you for that follow, Amy Chibi. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Hi, neighbor.
Hi, neighbor.
Thank you for that follow. I really appreciate that. Then she says, can you bring modern food to a LARP gathering?
We have modern food.
Yeah.
We did Cajun on the last weekender because we were on a boat, airship. We did Mediterranean. We did Italian. We've done Mexican is a favorite, and we've also done some European foods. We do
friendships.
Friendship. Yeah. So, Amy Chibi, these guys are the ones that have been running the tavern, which is the in-game structure that actually feeds people in-game, and they've been running it for the last few years. Mm-hmm. So, you can bring your own food, but there are people there, like, they actually provide food on the weekenders for us, and it is usually modern food. But you can bring your own, like Nev was saying, friendships. Someone every week so far has been bringing just chips and been handing them to people in exchange for their friendship.
Yep.
And if you turn them down, it's an insult.
Yeah. Also, if you bust out the jelly donuts, you will have the experience of fighting with powder all over your gear. It's not that much fun, or you will fall on them.
Lone Star says, who of you has been LARPing the longest? So at the three at the table, yes, it would be me. I have been playing almost since the beginning of Mythic Realms, which, as Boji said, Nevitz Gaming was about 20 years ago, and he started about the same time as me too. In fact, we actually found a photo from like the first first, second, or third year, where we NPC'd the Smash Brothers, who then have morphed into the PC. I'll have to see if, and I think it's on the Mythic website, so on the Facebook page actually, and
That's awesome.
because that was when we were playing, I think, our Smash Brothers in D&D. I can't remember which one came first, D&D or LARP, but the Smash Brothers. Then we were like, you know what? Let's make them PCs.
That's awesome.
That's
But,
awesome.
Yeah. So, but we actually found the photo, and I remember sharing it with him on Facebook, and I was like, "Holy cow! This is the creation of the Smash Brothers right here." So, but yeah.
Awesome.
But to be fair, I quit for quite a few years, so overall time, I still probably have a few more years than them, but it's not like I've been playing consistently for over 20 years, because I went away due to real life reasons as well. So
Yeah, we've
LARP
been in
came
for
first.
3 years.
3.5 years now.
Yeah.
3 years.
3 years?
Just over 3 years.
Just over 3 years.
Yeah. So
We plan on keeping it up. Candace is active in 2 LARPs. I am active in just this LARP.
Somebody's trying to convince me to go to Rex right now.
No. I'm actually thinking about becoming active in the other LARP that Candace is active in as well. Just so we can have the different playing experience and different things. Because in Mythic, me and Candace are on each other's hips, and we really love it. In the other one, we would be probably more independent players, just because we would like to have that. So.
Amy Chibi, this is a good question. I mean, not that any of them have been bad, but I like this question. How long ago did LARP become more accepted to more people?
I had actually hold on about that. There's a huge history element to this. We call it LARP now, okay? we call it LARP now, live action role play. We're all mysterious. I would argue that Proto-Greek theater, which was 25 to 3,000 years ago, in which people would put on their masks, and you didn't know who they were, and it could be anyone, and you would go act in front of people and you draw an audience. So how is that any different? It's been something that's been part of our culture. This pretend, this exploration of emotions and adventure has been a part of our culture since the beginning, and it hasn't been a new thing.
It's a matter of, so back in the 80s, LARP was pretty like taboo.
Yeah.
Like it would
Along with
just
D&D.
like D&D and all of that, right? So I think LARP has started to become more accepted along with the rest of geek culture, geek and nerd culture. All of that is kind of coming all kind of at the same time, because these things are no longer, oh my gosh, you're weird. It's like, oh, hey, that's your hobby.
Yeah.
And everybody's got different hobbies.
I think one of the things that helped, honestly, was that movie Accepted. Or the Role Models, was that what it was called?
That's the one with the Unicorn Island. Well, no,
It was a
cross
very
movies.
big, I think it was Role Models, where
Yeah.
where they were forced to go like be big brothers at the Big Brother, and they actually did LARP with these younger kids. Was
Yes.
it Role Models?
Yeah.
I think that had a huge impact on it, because people saw that it wasn't like this super nerdy thing, and that average people in the movie, average people were getting into it, and they realized that average people, like, because people see movies and they think it's real life, so they're like, oh, an average person in the movie got into this, so
It's okay.
an average person in real life might actually find it enjoyable too. And so it became less taboo and it became more widespread, because this was a $1 million movie, so.
And there's been a huge push with social media too for all of us, people that don't have, marketing and advertising budget to kind of rewrite that image of LARP ourselves. There's Sonia's Adventures on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And she does, this is what LARP looks like in Australia. This is what LARP looks like in Germany. This is what LARP looks like in Russia.
And she does those exposés on people. It's
and
awesome.
she's like, I am, a LARPer, and but during the day I'm a doctor or I'm a lawyer or whatever, and it shows their real life during the day, and then but at night, I am an assassin, and and it kind of goes through those, and she does these really great videos, kind of expressing that. I think that we as a community have had that desire to be seen as not just those weirdos.
Well, it goes back to like the idea of dressing up and playing pretend. I would argue it's no different than tailgaters dressing in their favorite sports players, memorizing stats that actually have no bearing on their life, talking about situations they physically have no control over, and reliving those joyous memories of participating in those events that sings to their heart. There is no difference between a hyper sports fan and a LARPer in terms of what it does to your, it does and what it does for you.
Yep.
So anyone who says otherwise, they're just fooling themselves. It's just denying the human condition.
Yeah. Amy Chibi says, I blame Tom Hanks' movie about D&D being bad, and I agree. That one instilled a lot of fear into people and created a lot of myths and legends about what D&D, and people immediately also applied a lot of those to LARP, because to them it was one and the same. They didn't realize how different they were. And then she says, can you say the LARP community was helped by cosplay becoming more common and accepted?
Probably.
I would say probably, but I think they also almost happened at around the same time as well.
Yeah.
So,
I think nerd culture in general is just being more supportive of each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the more supportive we are of video gamers, the more supportive people are going to be of tabletop gamers, the more supportive people are going to be of live action role players, the more support. It's a compounding effect. And so even though I do play video games, but I wouldn't consider myself a video gamer because I don't play them that much. My support of video gamers still helps support my community as live action role players, because a lot of those interweave and cross paths in a lot of ways. Like, you game and you LARP, like, because those two passions cross, we're supporting both things by supporting each other. That's what I think.
See, and I for a while was one of those people that I played D&D and I still looked at LARP as like a taboo because the people like, oh no, they get around and they actually cast rituals. They actually are like summoning demons and devils. And for a while I believed that crap, and I'm like, well, people say that about D&D, and that's not the case.
Yeah, because that doesn't happen.
So why would that be the case with something else? And I'm kind of glad that I worked at the haunted house that the owner started this LARP, because otherwise I probably would have never dipped my feet into it and realized that I was completely off the wall with my misconceptions, which is one of the reasons why we do this talk show, is to help people realize and to try to break through those myths and legends about what LARP is and isn't. So
Yeah, an anecdotal story I heard from some veterans.
Yeah?
They were NPCing at a city park.
Oh, yeah?
And they're like, oh, there's some players over there. They're army crawling through the bushes to go get them. And they stumbled across real pagans doing a real ritual. And they went, oh, we're not interrupting. And they backed away. So, the people doing real rituals are not... They're doing it in their own time, not on LARP.
Yeah. Okay, Amy TV says, kind of random question, but to you that do LARP, what are your thoughts on real life superheroes? Like Phoenix Jones, people that actually dress up as superheroes and go around patrolling the streets trying to help people. That's the first time I've heard about that, but I just worry about them because, it only takes a gun or something like that to just end that. You know what I mean? So it's just kudos to them, but I just worry about them.
Yeah, vigilantes.
Yeah, we call them vigilantes. I don't know.
I'm going to add something, and I normally don't talk. I think in that situation, you guys are such a controlled environment. In that situation, the environment is not controlled at all.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, we
too.
talk about keeping it safe, and when you're doing something like that, you can't control the environment. And
There's also our real society. There's ways to interact and interject and help people in positive ways. I kind of loathe dressing up like a superhero and patrolling the streets because that might be a good feeling, but what people need is probably volunteers at the local homeless shelter to help dish out meals and fold blankets or clean. There's probably a road home where a family needs a hug. There's probably a lot more. There's a lot more good that can be done from not trying to be something you're not. Like in that regard, we all have to have our release, but release and entertainment. But volunteering and giving back to your community is more superheroic than a Batman.
Or even the superheroes that dress up and go to children's hospitals. Like that.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, not dangerous.
Yeah. And it still means a lot more to those people, I think, than
Right.
someone patrolling the streets. So I don't know. I don't want to discount what they're doing because it's great. It's just like I said, I just worry about them.
Well,
Yeah.
join the police force, join the neighborhood watch.
Yeah.
There's other ways to do it that are safe and secure.
Yes. So let's see. There are other ways to help people that don't involve putting yourself in danger. Is what Nevin says, and that's what we've all.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. Let's see. Have you ever had people from other countries playing LARP with you?
I believe Alliance has that.
So Alliance does games all over the United States and Canada. So yes, when we do nationals, people come from all over both countries. Words.
Canada is a continent now.
Yeah, Canada's its own continent. Didn't you know that?
Yeah, apparently.
There was a great divide.
There's a wall.
There's.
Oh no.
Oh, let's
Sorry.
Let's not. So yeah, it's really cool. That's one of the great things about playing with Alliance is that frequently with just our regular, monthly weekender games, we get people from out of town. So
Yeah.
we get people from Idaho all the way up to, Washington and down to California who come to play. But then at the Nationals games, you get people from,
Yeah. The what's that one? There's 2 in Europe that are massive.
there's a lot in Europe.
There's a Warhammer.
Europe is huge
There's
on
a
LARPs.
Warhammer LARP in Germany, where
Damarang.
it's 4 countries.
Oh my gosh, there's
And
lots
then there's another LARP, and I can't remember the name of it. And there's at least 15 countries of participation in it.
Yeah.
But we're talking
Large
about
LARPs.
almost the same geographic size as the U.S., but there's 23 countries there.
Right.
So I dare say our LARPs are comparable. They go way more into production value than we do on average.
Yeah, but they also have like actual ancient castles to go fight in.
Yeah, for real.
Post-apocs work fairly well here, but they're not as popular as fantasy.
Yeah. There's a lot of good post-apoc LARPs in Europe too because of
World War II.
World War II.
You actually might really tread on a mine.
Yeah. Let's see. Would it be cool to have a Native American playing as a shaman in a LARP and using actual Native American traditions?
I personally don't have a problem with that, but like that's crossing the sacred ritual of life with the pretend, and we tend to like not invoke honest to goodness, real human religious symbols into it.
So it
Just to keep
in
that
that
sensitivity.
situation, it's all a matter of what that person is comfortable with, right? Like, if someone who is Native American wants to bring their culture into their gameplay, then I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? If someone who is like me, where I could be like, oh yeah, I probably have some Native American blood, like 16 generations back or something,
Yeah.
like tried to do that. I would be uncomfortable with that because that's treading on other people's culture.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
like I like the idea of bringing in like your bringing your cultural influence in, because we all do. I guess the warning I would go with is religious symbols that are still active. At Mythic we don't put up religious symbols that are actually currently active in the human condition right now.
Right.
Because that means something to people, and we're not the place for that meaning to be proper. Okay. So it would be that type of a decision. If it's a proper place to have that symbol, then sure. If it's not a proper place to have that symbol or to use it, then that's your discretion.
Yeah.
Let's see. Lone Star says, "Do you?" On that question, just other than stepping on the religious symbols, I think it would be cool because it would add a level of immersion to the game that we may not have. Having you sitting there chanting, Native American language to cast spells or something would be awesome. Mm-hmm. So I think it would be cool. We just have to, like you said, just be aware of not offending people by, using a religious symbol that means something to them or something like that.
Or using your own religious symbols in a way that it's not intended.
Yeah.
I'm sensitive to those types of things. I am not a Christian. I am not Christian at all. I don't mind crosses coming out, but I really don't like it when Christians come up to me and say, you need to be a Christian.
Yeah.
Because that's offensive to me. I'm not going up to them and say, you can't be a Christian. But that's because those symbols come loaded with those types of things.
Yeah.
With them absent, I get to meet that person and not. I get to meet that person, and I don't get to meet their religion, and I can completely respect their religion because it's theirs. Because I am not going to tread on it, and I would like not mine to be treaded on either.
Right. So we at Mythic, we try to just keep religion. There's no religion, no deities in the world of Cerelia.
Yeah.
And we do that on purpose because
You can bring
politics and religion are just things that we want to escape when coming to Cerelia.
Yes.
We don't want to be controlled by it.
You're going to be
well.
You're going to be bringing your religious intensities with you to the LARP, and you're going to have them in your LARP character. And in a LARP construct that has no religion in it, you can bring your Hindu values, you can bring your Islamic values, you can bring your Christian values with you, and live them in the LARP.
Yeah.
And completely express them, and not feel like you're being pushed out by other people's stuff, because you have that freedom, because we don't because we have that blanket use of and respect towards religious symbols.
So first off, thank you for subscribing, Jack Trace.
Yay!
Woo! Subscription! Yay! And then because he got injured, Lone Star decided to heal himself, so we got some bits. Yay! We got bits.
We'll gang up on him next weekend when he's here and he
Um,
can't do anything.
How you doing? But thanks for coming to the stream today, by the way, Jack Trace. How you doing? Lone Star says, do you mostly use modern tents and pavilions, or do you use some era accurate settings? Mostly modern stuff. We have like me and my buddy occasionally will use like an old style like teepee, which feels a little bit more era specific, but for the most
Black
part,
Widow.
The Black Widow is a full canopy style thing.
that one looks more period specific too. But
The encouragement is to go as immersive as you can, but money and ease. I mean, like, we are playing pretend, and there's a big discussion on like, hey, we can't have these modern things, and like, there's neon green tents.
Yeah.
So
it's
a work in progress.
It's always going to be a work in progress. We want it to be as immersive as possible, but we also understand that money is an issue, and we don't want money to be the reason why somebody doesn't come and play.
yeah.
So show up in your tent. Totally cool.
The average LARPer can't afford a $2,000 canvas
Exactly.
night's tent, and that's exactly it.
We'll do what we did. We got a 10 by 10, or you can get a 10 by 10 canopy from Walmart, and they have little tents that hook up to it. Beautiful, works easy, and you're like $200 or $300, and you have a wicked cool setup, and you have room. You have a place to be that's shaded, and a place to sleep that's protected, and it's one of the better setups you can get for LARP, or from just camping or just going out and doing other things. It's a very easy setup. It might not even be that much. It might be half that much, depending on how you buy. So
Yeah. So let's see. Go to Army Surplus and buy cheap canvas tent.
yeah, those tend to come with a lot of green and a lot of smells.
A lot of smells.
Yeah, I mean it's a possibility, and you can do whatever you feel like you're comfortable with and what you can do. When we first started, we were borrowing my parents' pop-up trailer because we didn't have any camping gear when we first started LARPing.
We just pulled the camping trailer, the pop-up trailer, to the other side of the road and set it up and just LARPed out of that.
Yeah.
And then we went and bought a 14-man tent at Costco because it was the least expensive way to house as many people as
and we also use it for our family, and we have a big clan. It's called the West Clan for a reason. So.
Yep.
Someone has a modern style tent that looks like a log cabin, kind of neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean,
the better.
And they're starting to develop a lot of modern tents that have more of that medieval look to them.
Yep.
Because we're finding out that medieval look actually works better at keeping water off of you.
Well,
and better for weather and better for things.
and so like people want that ease and convenience of like the easy, pop-up spring-loaded, tent.
They are nice.
But they also, a lot of people do Renaissance fairs and LARPing and all this other stuff where they want it to look cool and not like they're camping, but make it look, aesthetically like a getaway, without having to go through all the effort of the full canvas, tents with the poles and posts and the trip lines. I mean they're
trip lines.
So I mean, basically, Lone Star, bring whatever you're comfortable with, because we understand that there are real world limitations
bring your tent, bring your blankets.
Yep.
Bring your sleeping bag.
Yep. Bring whatever.
There's some guys that do a lot of rock climbing, and they actually set up their rock climbing gear in trees to sleep in the trees.
Yep.
We have the two barbarians that show up on a couple weekenders. They have a Mercedes converted camper van that is just really nice.
That's not theirs.
Yeah, it is. That Mercedes camper van was theirs.
No, that's Barris's.
No, that one. That he has the converted wagon thing that he's been showing up. The barbarians show up in a Mercedes camping van. It's really nice, and it's their personal thing. They just park kind of out of town a little bit because that's where they like to play, and they sleep in comfort and they do their own thing. The guys are awesome. So yeah, come with whatever you got.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a few more questions now. So Amy Chibi Do you use any kind of ranged weapon replacement in LARP or no ranged weapons at all? We actually have padded range, like bows and arrows, like.
So they have a big foam padded tip on the arrow. It has to be bigger than your eye socket so that it can't take out an eye if it hits you in the face.
And we also have a draw limit on the bow.
Yep.
The draw limit is 20 pounds.
And I think the draw limit's actually 30.
Yeah, I think it's 30, and 30 sounds
That's
right.
a child's bow from any hardware store or any sporting goods store. SCA and Amtgard and some other LARPs, they have other rules on it, but the LARP arrows are actually purchasable. We have one player that has a bandolier and a shield filled with about 30 throwing knives. And he will just throw knives at you like crazy. And they're like awesome little tiny things.
So throwing weapons are different than
projectiles.
Crossbow bolts or arrows, right? So throwing weapons can't have a core in them at all. They have to be completely flexible and soft. Crossbow bolts or arrows, the tip just has to be wide enough that it won't fit in your eye socket.
Yeah, where that crossbow, that's a game that might get changed.
There is one exception that we've found to that is that generally like Nerf style weapons are usually soft enough and well made enough that we don't have issues with those.
There's also just a level of common sense because the tendency, because fighting close quarters is what we normally do. So the danger of actually doing a full drop point blank range is very real.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of like Nerf arrows and arrows to the eyes because that's what happens.
Yeah.
It's harder to control where you hit somebody with a ranged weapon than it is with a melee weapon. That's just the fact of the matter. So there are more restrictions on.
And because shields are a thing, you find out very quickly that ranged weapons are not very effective one-on-one. Not
unless you can run backwards quickly.
Yeah. and at a 30-pound draw, I can catch those arrows physically. So
yeah, bat them.
You can bat them away with your hands. You can see them coming. You can even reach them out of the air.
Well, if you bat it away with your hand, you still take the damage. Yeah. If you bat it with your weapon, you don't.
Yeah.
So you can bat away projectiles with your weapon. I've done it all the time. So
yeah. Lone Star asked, "Do you ever have significant others / families that come but don't play?" Yes.
Yes. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. All the time. They'll sit in town and camp and read their books and walk their dogs and play around. They'll put the out of game band and they'll just come to the tavern. Guess what? They'll come to the tavern and talk to me and hang out. And I've hung out with a lot of family members. And like Josh and Debbie bring their kids, and the kids are doing homework, and I'm helping them with math.
Yeah.
So yeah, all the time.
Yep, all the time. My last year, my wife came. I think to almost all of them. She didn't play. She just came and hung out, her and my son, and he loved it. He thinks it's real fun to run around with a little dagger hitting people.
Yep.
So.
And it's still camping.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
Yep. A lot of little kids like to come and just like goof off, play around. Like they're in their own little pretend world when they.
Yep.
Like they don't have to follow the rules of the LARP. They're not involved in the LARP. They're in their own world.
Yep.
Little kids don't need rules to play pretend.
Into LARP because they're doing it all the time, and we're just remembering it. How much fun it was.
Yeah. So.
Yep. All right. Are we good?
I think that's been a good.
Yeah, I was just say we appreciate all the questions, and if there's any more, I think we'll have to address them next week because we are a little over time right now, which is fine. We don't really have like a specific end time, but. I have somewhere I need to be, unfortunately, so we do need to end things here. So thanks to everyone for being here. We want to talk about first off Castle of Chaos. We would not be able to play we could, but we would be outside freezing our butts off.
Oh, yeah.
So Castle of Chaos is nice enough to let us use their building during the winter season so that we don't all freeze and get sick.
Yeah, Castle of Chaos on State Street and...
I don't know
it's about 78.
7800 South. Worth it. They have 5 levels of fear. I do the level 4 all the time. Totally worth it. Thank you for putting that. I like that. Level 4 going through is just awesome. I do it all the time. It's my level. It's my idea of a good, just barely gets me scared. I'm a weirdo. totally worth it. I say go hit them up and go support them because it's a great place, great people.
Yeah.
Raven does makeup there.
Yeah, our daughter.
Our daughter does
does
some of the
makeup
makeup there, and she actually acts there. So you'll meet a lot of LARPers because we're spooks at haunts a lot of the time. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here, Amy Chibi. I appreciate it. It was nice to meet you as well, and I loved all the questions. We'll be here again next week at
What are we doing next week?
noon Mountain Standard Time. So next week, we are going to have some people making characters for the very first time.
Yay!
As I was going to talk to you about this afterwards, because I don't know how long it's going to take. I think we need more than one person,
All right.
though.
Yeah. we can do
So
that
if you
for
want to
sure.
get your people as well, too, we will have Lone Star here next week.
Yay!
So Lone Star will be here making his character. He's been to every single podcast, to every single talk show that we've done. He's listened to them all, so he should be familiar with the rules. But he'll be here, and so that's what we're going to do next week. And then the following week, episode 10 is going to be the season finale, and it is going to be an evening with the Garadetsky family.
Oh my! So what corner are you going to be sitting in and tied up?
That was actually her idea.
So
I'm
true.
so excited for that.
Yeah, so we'll discuss. I'll discuss that with you guys afterwards. But that is a family that, if you've been listening, they've been referred to a few times. They have some nefarious deeds under their belt, but they will be coming and they will actually be discussing things in game, in character.
Oh,
So
no.
it'll be a little less of a talk show and more of just like an actual
It's going to be
role
a show.
play set.
It's
It'll
going
be
to be
a show.
I want to be here for that.
So I'm a little. I'm more than a little. I'm ecstatic for that because we will have all but one of the members here. So I'm excited for that.
Also, their anniversary.
And
Oh
it
my
is one.
goodness.
It
On
is
11/11.
it is one day prior to their creation date. So that's
Oh my
really
gosh.
cool too. So it's kind of fun for them as well. And then I also want to thank real quick the Ascendance Gaming Center for letting us film this here.
Yes.
If it wasn't for them, this wouldn't even be possible.
I don't know if you guys can see behind us, behind the shield in these cages. These are VR setups.
Yep.
These are awesome. They have 3 rows of gaming computers, and it's like nice in here. The ambiance is good. I love it. You guys should go down here and check it out.
Yeah. So we have you got the website for.
Yeah, and we have some tournaments coming up. We have Beat Sabers the 9th.
Beat Sabers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The 9th, Hearthstone the 16th, and then our monthly
Super Smash.
Smash Melee will be.
Well, you pull up the 64 and play Smash Melee.
They play it on
The Wii.
GameCube.
The GameCube. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Ooh,
yeah.
that's the good one.
That tournament's every Monday night.
Because anyone
and
could just show up.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it cost to get in?
It's $10.
To get into the tournament?
Mm-hmm. It's
That's-
5 for. That's the Monday nights.
Okay.
It's 5 and 5.
Okay.
It's 5 venue, 5 to the tournament. And that's every Monday night. And then they have one big monthly, and that's the weekend before Thanksgiving. I think it's the 23rd
23rd?
of November is the big one.
So any of the tournaments, anyone could just walk in, pay, and try. Guys, come on,
You can
why?
go to our website, which is, I think, this one.
And then immediately it says we're available. Yes, that will be quite a treat, Jack Traits. I'm excited for it. It'll be a lot of fun for you guys to see that. So hopefully you guys will be here for the season finale. And then finally, all these episodes are available every Wednesday on YouTube and on podcast form at Anchor, which the link is right there. So if you guys want, you can just listen to these while driving around or whatever. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for the bits. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the subscriptions. I really appreciate that. I also want to thank my guests for being here and discussing, and all these questions were fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. Thank you for being here on the co-host always, and we'll discuss a few things afterwards.
Yeah.
Other than that, I guess we're all done. So thanks everyone for being here, and I will bid you adieu, Jack Trade. See you. Bye, Lone Star. Bye, everybody.
Bye.